35th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union. President Kenyatta, who decried the sustained high malaria prevalence in the continent, isolated digitization and accountability and action scorecards, one of his 4-point agenda against malaria, as an important tool in the campaign against the disease. Still, in the African Union and the African Union member states have sustained their push for reforms at the United Nations Security Council. The continent's head of state and government reiterated that Africa should get at least 2 permanent and 5 non-permanent seats on the Security Council. Leading the charge at the 35th Ordinary Session of the African Union, Ethiopia Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed remained adamant that Africa's voice on the world stage ought to be heard loud and clear. According to the Ethiopian Premier, the much sought-after reforms and revitalization of the UN system is long overdue, so as to reflect current global realities and ensure that it is a more representative and equitable body. Now, the universal healthcare coverage program championed by the national government is finally ready to roll out in the 47 devolved units. Health Cabinet Secretary Muthui said the UHC rollout will finally ease access to health services for millions of Kenyans. UHC is one of the big 4 strategic pillars declared by President Uhuru Kenyatta, which will see major policy and administrative reforms in the medical sector to ensure everyone has access to quality and affordable medical coverage by 2022. The construction of classrooms to anchor the junior secondary classes for competency-based curriculum is almost 66% complete. This is according to Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha, who inspected and commissioned a CBC classroom at Aldina Vistram Secondary School in Mombasa County. Magoha revealed that 572 classrooms are ready for commissioning and that over 6,470 classrooms will be constructed across the country in the first phase of the project. To matters politics, and Deputy President William Ruto has announced the incorporation of Kwale Governor Salim Mvurya as one of the principals in the Kenya Kwanza lands. The Deputy President commended Governor Mvurya's commitment and work for Kwale residents, saying his track record in the county has brought him a place at the decision-making table. He said Mvurya would join Amani National Congress Party leader Musalia Mudavadi, Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula and Mathira Member of Parliament Rigathi Gachagua at the main table of the Kenya Kwanza coalition. And Orange Democratic Movement Party Director of Elections Junaid Mohammed says they are likely to conduct joint party primaries under the Azimio la Umoja coalition. Junaid, who spoke in Migori County, said their cordial relationship with the Jubilee Party shall be extended into long-term political agreements. The Suna East Member of Parliament added that they are yet to sign a pact with the Jubilee Party ahead of the party primaries to ensure that they champion for a common cause. And Musalia Mudavadi, the leader of the Amani National Congress, has slammed his political opponents, claiming that they cannot be forced to enter government on other people's terms. Mudavadi said he believes in forming a government with dignity and respect rather than following someone's terms for being welcomed into government. Speaking in Vihiga County, Mudavadi reiterated that the Kenya Kwanza movement believes in forming a new government that will uphold modest principles and attend to Kenyans' needs. And Pope Francis condemned female genital mutilation and trafficking of women for prostitution, calling them humiliating efforts to women's dignity and urging officials to do everything possible to end both. According to the United Nations, FGM is concentrated in about 30 countries in Africa and the Middle East, but is also practiced by immigrant populations elsewhere. More than 4 million girls are at risk of undergoing FGM this year, according to the United Nations. And finally, Newswire continues to urge you to continue observing the COVID-19 protocols. Go get tested to know your status, but importantly, go get vaccinated so that you can protect yourself, those that you love, because taking care of yourself is taking care of those that you love, and so that together we may win the fight against COVID-19. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
No, you know, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makueni?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel in Kericho, good morning.
Salama sana Eric, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Seriousness Maritim, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Seriousness Maritim, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende.
Oh, wow.
Asante sana.
That's it.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
Okay, it's Monday morning, and what do these Nairobi streets look like? It's building up in certain parts of the city, but it hasn't gotten to the point where we're crying tears and rubbing shoulders. A little bit on Langata Road, getting towards the city centre. We're also looking at this Uhuru Highway building up as you're going through all the way into Westlands. Coming out of Jogoo Road today, not looking so bad. The CBD is what's taking the largest hit. A little bit of traffic on Mombasa Road today, and rather the thicker superhighway, and it's then going towards the direction of the Utali Drift. But again, things are just starting to hot up, and I don't think it's going to get any crazier, at least not for half an hour or so. It's Monday. Good morning. Let's know what's happening in your neck of the woods. How can you do that? Talk to us on SpiceFM KE, on Twitter, text 40127. Let's keep things moving this Monday.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It's 9 minutes after 6. A very good morning to you. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Happy Monday. Welcome to a new week. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. It's already 7 days down. Like that. Gone in February. City, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, sir. Yes.
How do you like? No, don't worry. How do you like Ndu's eyes? It's a trick question.
Well, actually, the position they currently hold is a good one because it's the same position they had last week.
She can see clearly now.
I can see clearly now. The rain is gone.
She's healed. Amen. No longer in need of glasses. What happened? Oh, ye of little faith.
My eyes were doing a thing. Oh, it was a Pastor Eric morning. Yeah. I'm sorry. You know how it's those people who are told, when the priest comes, make sure you fall down.
Yes.
When he touches you. When he touches you, make sure you fall down. Sorry, you should have told me before now.
How was your weekend?
It was all right.
Very good.
I did a lot of sleeping. And then I got a fishbone stuck in my throat.
Again?
Did I get a fishbone?
Yes. Remember that, City?
I recall.
I got a fishbone. And I think it's kind of still there. So if you see
what
me
is
now
it about you and
getting,
fish
if
and
you see me now growing scales and getting fins, you know that
traditionally
infiltration has happened.
Traditionally, how did your people get rid of fish bones that were stuck in the throat?
you know what you would do, and my mother would say that you take a piece of starch, you swallow, and then you turn your neck when you're swallowing, so it would push it in the opposite direction.
It's how similar Africans are.
Is it? The same thing here?
Yes.
Oh, wow, okay.
Take a piece of ugali.
And then when you swallow
slightly hot, make a small bowl of it.
Yeah.
Swallow it like that, and then
you turn as you
but
swallow.
slightly hot. And
slightly hot.
And it's
has to be slightly
why
hot.
So that you swallow it fast.
See if you're going to move.
It'll move anything in its path.
Yes, it's. I thought, actually, if you think about it, it's rolling, isn't it?
It is.
It's very likely that it worked because the fish bones. It's not as though it's something as thick as your finger.
No. It's a minute thing.
But
it can leave a trail of damage.
Throat is sensitive.
Very.
So why didn't you swallow a piece of ugali?
I did, but I think it's maybe too small.
Oh, it wasn't hot.
It wasn't ugali, actually. It was fufu.
Ugali
was it hot?
Fufu.
Of course.
Ugali is fufu.
Fufu. It's fufu.
Okay.
Not fufu.
It's fufu.
Fufu is so bougie. How are you, Eric?
I'm fine.
Oh, good.
Yes. Welcome to the big conversation today. We'll. So the president is going to be in Mombasa today, and he'll be hosting a meeting, a forum for health workers, plus at the same time rolling out universal health coverage. We'll have that conversation. What is this UHC? Then let's talk about this controversial bill that is before the National Assembly. And this is the Elections Act Amendment, the Elections Amendment Bill, which is seeking very many things. And there's a lot of miscommunication about it. The IEBC had to release a statement and say the media is misleading the public. This is not the case with this bill. We'll have Senator Kipchumba Murkomen joining us, and we'll open up that conversation as well to what do you understand about this bill and what does it mean? And then we will have very many other conversations. COVID.
The world is inching closer and closer to 400 million cases of COVID. It's likely that by the end of Tuesday, we would have gotten there. 395,882,670 is what we're looking at now. Of course, we're still looking at the top nations with the highest numbers of COVID. 926,029 deaths is what the US, for example, has reported from COVID. And again, getting close to 1 million. 78 million cases of COVID in the US, 42 in India, 26 in Brazil, 20 in France, 17, 12 and 12 in the UK, Russia and Turkey respectively, 11, 11 and 10 then in Italy, Germany and Spain. Those are the top 10 in the world. And again, we're looking at it, if you just do that roughly, 395 million cases, about 250 million are from these 10 countries. That's what we're looking at in the world today. Interesting news coming out of South Africa while we're looking at those numbers. Still, before we come to what's happening in Kenya, South Africa makes its own version of the Moderna vaccine. Scientists in South Africa have made a copy of the Moderna COVID vaccine, a move that they say will help boost vaccination rates across Africa. The continent currently has the lowest uptake of COVID shots in the world. It also has the lowest in terms of reported cases of COVID, which is interestingly something that often is left out of the reporting. The company behind the new vaccine, Afrigen Biologics, says it hopes to start clinical trials in November. Moderna previously said it would not enforce the patents on its vaccine, allowing scientists in Cape Town to make their own version of it. They were backed by the World Health Organization. Petro Terblanche, the director of Afrigen Biologics, said that they were starting small, but had ambitions to scale up quickly. She said that we've used the sequence, which is the same sequence as the Moderna vaccine 1273. It's part of a global initiative to build capacity and capability in low and middle income countries to become self-sufficient. So I would say chapeau. It's a great thing that's happening here.
So what does that mean? Did they get patent from Moderna?
Yes. Initially, Moderna had said, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to allow it. But then now they've said, okay, well, we can go ahead and do that since we've seen that there's a shortage and in terms of capacity and capability, especially on the continent,
Right.
it's looking a bit dicey. So please go ahead and do that.
Make a copy.
Right. Essentially make a copy and adapt it for you. So it'd be interesting to see how that rollout clinical trials in November. All right, quickly, at home in Kenya, 53 new cases. This was yesterday from a sample size of 4,054. Lowest positivity rate in the last 9 weeks, 1.2%. Very, very good. Recorded deaths of 14, however, but this is now over time. Are we still looking at vaccinations? Yes, we are. Is it looking good? No, it's not. Unfortunately, we still only have 13.5 vaccinations having been administered around the country.
It's more than 1 million a week, man. Not doing badly.
More or less. Looking at this vis-a-vis the vaccines rather that are available in the country, we're still looking at about upwards of 11.5 available still. All right, 22.9% of the total population has been fully vaccinated. We're in February. Mid-December, early December, we were looking at about 11%. So double the percentage of those who've been vaccinated in the last 2 months. So yes, Eric, it's a good thing.
Yeah, we're moving. We're jamming. It's 17 minutes after 6. We are live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Are you online? Say hello, and we'll be saying hello to you. Roll call time coming up shortly after we take a look at the weather forecasts.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Are you a woman looking to run for an elective position in the upcoming 2022 general elections? SpiceFM, the home of Kenya's biggest
Nairobi
conversation,
this morning,
is inviting you to our studios where you can speak more about your vision and aspirations
into Nyeri,
to an audience of millions of Kenyans as we celebrate women in leadership. For more information, contact us on 0763 969797.
At the moment. In Eldoret today, we'll see highs of 24, currently at 11 degrees and clear. Mostly clear conditions in Mombasa at 26, highs of 32 and lows of 24. And in Malindi, it's clear at 26, highs of 31 today. It's partly cloudy at 20 in Kisumu, highs of 26 and lows of 18. While in Kakamega, it's partly cloudy at 16. 26 will be the high and lows of 15. Kampala is mostly cloudy at 20. It'll go to highs of 26 today and lows of 19. It's raining this morning in Dar es Salaam at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 24. Clear conditions in Johannesburg at 13, highs of 24, and quite warm in Lagos today, already at 26. Very early morning, going to highs of 33 and lows of 24 today. Clear conditions at 24 in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 33. Looking into Beijing, going into early afternoon Monday, it's 3 degrees and sunny, highs of 5 and lows of -6. It's clear in Paris at 7, highs of 11 and lows of 6, while mostly clear in London at 6. We'll see highs of 11. Bang on 0 Sunday night in New York. We'll see highs of just that and lows of -2.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
After 6, who is online?
Jerry Munyi, otherwise known as the White Rhino, is tuned somewhere within the people's settlement of Korogosho. How's that for a Monday morning? Tuned in from Nyali, Mombasa, Tyrone Wood Ajigo says, good morning. Good morning, listening in from Meru. That's where David Neto is. Salim Dennis is tuned in from Nakuru. Dawit Dejene. Good morning again, Kenya, watching from DC. DC, Democratique du Congo. Washington, DC. Which DC?
The Democratic du Congo has a republic
But let me ask you.
Stop creating a new country.
I'm just asking.
DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah.
Wait.
DC.
Washington, D.C., District of Columbia.
Of Colombia.
Yeah. But still D.C.
Yes.
Then D.C. Comics.
So we were going with that.
We're always heading in that direction.
My guy Timothy says, hello. Dagi Oguchi is tuning in this morning from Kisumu. Asubuhi njema, Kenya wote wa Kenya. Ugali is fufu. It is not. It's not fufu.
Tell him yam fufu.
No.
Fufu is ugali.
Fufu is cassava. It's made from
yam.
cassava.
Sinisawa.
Then there's pounded yam, which is made from yam.
Sinisawa.
Akuna.
See, it's just, what color is it?
Like it's off yellow.
There you go. It's yellow ugali. We have brown ugali. We have white ugali.
What is ugali? What does it actually mean? It's a meal, right?
Sindio.
Sawa basi. Kama ni hivyo, ni sawa. Sawa. Okay. Robert Bogo says, good morning, tuning from Mombasa. Charity's tuning from Nakuru this morning. Millie Howie Acheng says, hello. And Elia Siamo is tuned in from Kajiado this morning. Quite a number of you online today. We see you. Stan, we see you. Pneumonia and malaria are still leading among diseases that cause more deaths in Kenya than COVID. This is very true. Locked in from Auda Asembo Ndori. That's where Frank is this morning. Good morning. Alego Karapulsiaya County also tuned in. How was your weekend? He's always locked from Nakuru. That's what Jose J says. We see you all. Thanks for joining us this morning, Asante.
Everybody, welcome. CT. Cheza kama wewe.
Anayejitia lisilomhusu hupata lisilomridhi.
Anayejitia lisilomhusu hupata lisilomridhi.
Let me give it meaning.
Give it meat.
Give it
Don't
life.
poke your nose in other people's business.
Where's nose there?
No, I said let me give it.
Oh, give it meaning.
First start by translating. Just do a literal translation.
He or she or they.
One who
puts themselves in things. Yes,
Sorry.
he or she. Who puts themselves in positions that do not concern them. That is kumhusu. Find themselves in things they had not hoped for or they had not hoped to inherit. Kurithi is to inherit.
Kurithi?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So, I have done a 1 + 1.
And
quickly.
This one is nose.
Nose, stay on your face, on your head, on your body. Don't transport it to other people's business. Yes. Simple.
Okay. Let's transport ourselves into everybody else's business by looking at the newspaper headlines. www.standardmedia.co.ke. Go there, find yourself subscribe, and you'll have access to the Standard Media. Or just download the app on Standard, the Standard e-paper app. Wapi? Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Okay. One for Google. In the papers this morning, there's a story here that is quite, let's just say, shocking. Okay. Page 3 of the Standard. It tells the story of Dr. Lincoln Hasakala. Dr. Lincoln Hasakala died on the 8th of January this year. This is how the story begins. Both he and his wife tested positive for COVID-19 in March last year. Unfortunately, his wife died the same month, March 2021. Lincoln had been weak, and in July last year, he was rushed to Nairobi Hospital unconscious and was admitted first at the HDU and then the ICU. The brother David says the late Dr. Lincoln Hasakala was in ICU for 2 months. Now, this is which months? July and August. He was then moved into HDU and finally to the normal ward when he was in a vegetative state. He remained in that vegetative state until he died last month. By the time of his demise, We had incurred a bill of 22 million shillings. 22 million shillings. Remember, the man went to hospital in July last year, and he was first HDU, then ICU, then back HDU, then to normal ward, vegetative. Stayed in hospital until his demise last month. Bill, 22 million shillings. He used to work at Nairobi West part-time. So the family plus the Nairobi West Hospital managed to raise some money. They settled a bill of 2.9 million shillings. 22 million shillings minus 2.9 million?
19.1 million.
There you go. The family, however, says the University of Nairobi, where Dr. Khasakala was a lecturer, has refused to settle the bill. All efforts to make the university settle this bill have proved futile. The university claims that it was not informed when this doctor was admitted to hospital. Yet, he was their staff and he was away for all those months. Of course, they knew he was admitted. This is according to his brother David. But the university's director of corporate affairs, John Orindi, says, we cannot pay if you admit yourself to Nairobi Hospital. Nairobi Hospital is not one of the service providers contracted by the University of Nairobi. So for you to go to a private hospital, not referred by us, you must get a special request and get permission to be admitted there. There's no way we are liable for this. That's what the university says. The Nairobi Hospital is not among the panel of hospitals that have assigned a contract to the University of Nairobi. This man was rushed to Nairobi Hospital. He's been there until he died. So, Orindi says, when a staff member is admitted, they always monitor the treatment and if need be, advise them to seek treatment elsewhere. The hospital should take responsibility. This is what the University of Nairobi is saying. They have a policy to cover these kinds of situations. Don't go to the employer. But on the 27th of January, Nairobi Hospital wrote a letter, which the Standard has seen, to the University of Nairobi requesting that the bill be settled. The letter says, in part, the late Dr. Khasakala was wheeled into the hospital in a critical condition. In this condition, the most we could do was to take urgent medical steps to save his life. As to the cost of this treatment, the family assured us that it had duly informed your institution about his hospitalization in order to take care of his medical bill as his employer. The family also says that it involved the Kenya Medical Association, the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, and according to KMA President Dr. Were Onyino, before Dr. Khasakala died and the bill was getting out of hand, they wrote to the Medical Council, the Parliamentary Health Committee, and the Ministry of Health to intervene and allow the family to have Dr. Khasakala discharged for care at home. KMPDU Deputy Secretary General Dennis Miskela says they made the request for Dr. Khasakala's discharge when the bill was only 7 million shillings. But their efforts were ignored. Hospitals have no right to detain the body. We reached out to the hospital and they claimed that the bill has to be cleared. We offered options, but they refused. So as we speak, the family of Dr. Lincoln Khasakala has a bill of about 18 million shillings and the Nairobi Hospital has said, clear the bill so we can release the body. The doctor's employer, the University of Nairobi, says, yes, we have covered our employees, but we have certain hospitals that we advise them to go to, and we have signed a contract with. We were not advised, and so we did not actually authorize the admission of Dr. Khasakala into Nairobi Hospital.
And while he was in hospital, because obviously he was admitted in July, until January, did they not question where he's been admitted? Did they not ask? Did they not pay him a visit? Did they not do any of that to then be able to advise and say, hey, folks, even this hospital where you are right now, we would advise that we move you. Did that not happen?
Those are the questions. You see, Nairobi Hospital, also the other issue is when you go to get admitted, there's a whole insurance, clearance and pre-authorization process.
Yes.
Did this take place? Did the Nairobi Hospital call and say, okay, so we have this patient here, we've stabilized the patient, now we need to get authorization to actually continue offering treatment?
Even when you go for a procedure under insurance, there is always the authorization, the pre-authorization process, whereby they call your insurer to say, is this individual covered for 1, 2, 3? Without which then you cannot be treated.
Or your insurer calls in advance.
Advance.
And
to
so
say,
when you arrive, they know you are
you're
coming. And the position. But this guy was in an emergency. And what they did is what hospitals are supposed to do.
Yes, stabilize the individual.
Yes, but for them, the person to have stayed in hospital.
Over 6 months.
For talking about 6 months here.
Yes, so this is what one needs to understand. Why did they allow this individual to stay in hospital for 6 months?
Exactly. And I find it difficult to comprehend that insuring institution under which the medical cover was provided did not know. So they say.
Actually,
so they say
he was. It's a bit tricky. You know why? If you're insured by an institution, there will be a card that you have that authenticates that cover.
Sure.
And for you to have stayed in hospital, the likelihood that that card was presented to the hospital
is high.
Is high.
Yes.
There's also the other issue, whether the hospital has a contract with the university.
The university, yes.
So it doesn't matter whether you have a card or not. If we don't have a contract, your card does not tell us anything.
No, it doesn't.
So this letter by the hospital says the family assured us that you've talked as the employer, and the employer has said you're going to cover. But clearly, it appears like there was no written communication. There's something this is not the whole story.
No. That actually is the heart of the matter. But also, 22 million in 6 months.
ICU, HDU, ICU.
Yes. It comes to 3.6 million shillings
a month.
Yes.
Possible.
It's possible.
It's possible.
I was just doing the maths and I was thinking, so how much are you incurring?
It is extremely high, but we've seen such kind of bills. And it's so unfortunate. Imagine 1 month ICU, 4 million, and you're like,
actually,
what on earth?
No, it is possible.
Yeah.
Because if you take the view that you're in the ICU and they're charging you 100,000 shillings a day.
Yeah. Yep.
In a week, it's close to 1 million.
Yes. And that 100,000 is not because you are a resident, but it's what it takes beyond you just being in the room.
To keep you alive.
Yes, the room has a constant fee. But whatever else they are doing.
Drugs and procedures being administered for sure.
Yep. It's 27 to 7. Let's take a quick break. Take a look at the traffic. We'll be looking at other newspaper headlines shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi Lokop is Jeshi Lawokov?
I can't say it very well. You know, Jeshi Lokop.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Building up slowly, packing up on Langata Road this morning, and it's heading out towards Rollout Tinge Way, which is free and clear as you're getting to the roundabout at the city mortuary. That shouldn't be too much of an issue. Where it is an issue this morning is on Jogo Road, all the way from Hamza out towards the City Stadium roundabout. That is packed and slowing down considerably. So there's a lot of new additional construction going on Mombasa Road. What does this mean? It means traffic, and that's already started this morning. And we're seeing that crossing over from the Weybridge at Sabaki out then towards towards the SGR, moving very slowly then beyond that towards Cabanas and then out towards General Motors. We're still going to have that hiccup around Imaradaima. That will continue for some days. So this is what we need to get used to. A lot of folks being diverted then as you're coming from Lolongo, you're going to use that service lane, which then of course looks like a whole maze, and you can use those diversions that have been set up. So please be careful while you do that. It's going to cause some traffic. It has already started this morning. All right, Thika Superhighway also building up as you're getting into the city. We're looking at it going past Githurai today already. Let's keep an eye on things, folks. Hopefully this Monday will not be too manic. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay.
Mornings done right.
So there's this whole hullabaloo about UHC then today. The president will be launching UHC. Remember what he said is that, by July this year, this thing should be rolling in 47 counties. President Uhuru Kenyatta will today launch the universal health coverage expected to increase access to health services in the country. He will also preside over the International Conference on Harmonization of Curriculum and Training of Health Professionals at a separate venue in Mombasa. Speaking at the Port Reitz Hospital, where the UHC launch will take place, Health Cabinet Secretary Muthui Kagwe said that the UHC program championed by the national government was finally ready for a rollout in 47 counties. Kagwe, who was with the Coast Regional Commissioner John Elungata, said the government will scale up a UHC based on experiences from the pilot phases of the program in 4 counties. The implementation of universal health coverage as one of the Big Four agenda will in the long run ensure that all individuals and communities have access to quality, essential health services without suffering from financial hardships. So this is what's going to go on today. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. While that is going on, NHIF has reviewed the cost for various procedures in its new scheme. So remember, NHIF is the vehicle through which UHC will be delivered in the country, right? Yes. Now, dialysis for kidney patients pegged at 6,500 shillings. This has come down from 9,500 shillings. But private hospitals say the new rates were too low, with a reduction of at least 50%. The NHIF will pay a uniform rate for delivery across all hospitals in Kenya under the new enhanced medical scheme. Women giving birth through normal method will pay 10,000 shillings at level 3, 4, 5 and 6 for both national and enhanced comprehensive cover, while charges for C-section under comprehensive cover has been set at 30,000. In the 2020-2021 financial year, the NHIF paid out 1.4 billion shillings for C-sections. Indeed, there has been an increase in the number of C-section procedures, which rose from 9.5% in 2016 to 14.9% in 2019, according to the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey. Most were performed in private hospitals, interestingly enough. Dialysis for key patients, like we said, under proposed rates is 6,500 shillings, a decrease from 9,000. So this means 6,500, you should be able to get 3 sessions in that 18,000 shillings that they had talked about. Patients are also encouraged to undertake at least 3 dialyses every week. So that's the weekly sessions that you need. So it comes to about 19,000. As per the Kenya Renal Association and international standards, radiology under the new proposed rates, MRI services will cost 9,000 shillings for both comprehensive and non-comprehensive holders, from 15,000. The CT scan will cost 6,000. This is also a reduction from 8,000 shillings for both comprehensive and non-comprehensive cover. Cancer patients in need of mammography will pay 6,000 shillings under a comprehensive package, or rather cover, a package that will not be issued for non-comprehensive holders. So we're looking at the scheme also providing basic chemo for 25,000 bob per session for 6 sessions, complex chemo up to 100,000 per session, radiotherapy 3,600 for a session for 20 sessions. Brachytherapy will be charged at 40,000 shillings, 15,000 shillings for a bone scan, and 40,000 shillings for a PT scan for one image per year.
Now, of those figures, which ones are controversial? Which ones are the hospitals rejecting? Is
The
it all?
dialysis is one of them. I remember when we talked to Dr. Timothy Olwen, and now this is also what we are seeing here, is that especially for dialysis and these procedures that they're saying the infrastructure is what is giving us problems. So you've got somebody who's got to man the machine, you've got the machine and its maintenance and upkeep, and then you've got the actual medicine. So they're saying at 9,500 bob, they were not even able to make it happen. And now you're essentially telling them that you're going to, essentially what happens here is that you're going to throw in an extra session for basically no cost. That's what it is here.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, so they're saying it's really, they're not able to afford it. That's what they're saying.
What don't you believe, Eric?
Yeah?
What don't you believe?
That they were operating at minimum profit.
I actually don't know.
Look, here's the thing. If the same dialysis would cost much less at a public institutions, yes, there's that whole story of, there's a subsidy, the staff are paid, but yes, putting the money for staff, putting the fee for everything else, how much on average does it cost to run a dialysis session?
It would be interesting to find out the details of that, what it actually costs and what you can get away with.
NHIF is also looking at, all right, so they are not just coming out of the blues. They know the cost of these things. They have studied. They do this that's what they do on a regular basis. They have doctors. They have a pool of doctors. They have advisors who've told them, this is how much it's costing to actually do a dialysis. Now, the Renal Association and international best practice has moved from 2 sessions a month, a week, to 3 sessions a week. Is it still possible to offer the 3 sessions a week for the same amount of money?
I don't know. When I say I don't know, it's because this discussion is coming alongside another bigger discussion, UHC.
Yes.
It's also coming alongside an even bigger discussion, compulsory NHIF.
Yes.
I cannot but ask myself, is it coincidental? Because everyone above the age of 18 is going to be required to be a member of NHIF.
NHIF, yes.
And you see, when you're a member, this is not membership where you pay after a year. You pay immediately.
Yeah.
Okay? Then the government is determined that UHC must be rolled out. Now, somewhere along the line, there's this discussion with private hospitals who've been accustomed to charging what they seem to want. We are informed that they discuss with the NHIF and they arrive at an understanding. But these aren't normal times. No, they're not normal times. And if I look at the proliferation of private hospitals, I can only say one thing. There's money to be made in the healthcare business. People don't go around opening businesses for the sole purpose of losing money.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So really, what is the truth here? Is it possible for the doctors to reduce this cost to the level that NHIF is asking? And even if it isn't, is it possible for them to make up for whatever it is that they're saying in other costs? I'm going to use an analogy here of a kibanda. There's a kibanda, there used to be a kibanda near where I stayed. And I asked the person why they stock sugar, salt, and matchboxes. They told me, there's some things we have where the money you make is nonsensical. But they're essentials and people like them. So when they come, they'll buy something else from which you can now actually make money.
Yep.
And I asked them, like, what? So it's like, these small mandazis and these and these. See, these ones, you really make money from them. And the sweet. I said, really? He said, yes, there's money in sweets. What am I saying? Even if indeed it is not possible for the private hospitals to provide a service at a certain cost, surely that's not the only thing. It's not as though everybody who comes to hospital comes with a renal problem.
Right.
Are there not other ways in which they can be compensated? Because people with renal problems, unfortunately, have begun knocking at death's door if this thing is not handled well.
Yep.
So shouldn't there be a give and then there's a take somewhere else?
And again, renal is not 1-2 sessions.
No.
It's
very many sessions. Yes. But also importantly, the government is talking with one sleeve folded and the other one buttoned up. You know why? There is something they want to do. It's this double speak that we hear with the expressway. There's what they tell the president, and there's what they know to be the truth. Somehow there seems to be an economy of truth-telling when it comes to some of our civil servants. The whole story isn't told. What do we actually need for the UHC to work? The reality of it. Because even in countries where it worked, it wasn't a one go. No.
No, it wasn't.
You started it at one level, and then there were hiccups. You improved. It took a bit of time before it actually set in, and a bit of time wasn't 1 or 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
Some went even up to 10 years before it started working. So this one of ours want to start it and want it to work immediately. That is not the truth. It can't work that way.
No, it's not.
Because all these 18-year-olds, you can say it's compulsory. Where are they going to get this money that you want them to pay on a monthly basis? There are so many untold stories and stories which haven't been comprehensively understood together with UHC. So I am saying, this discussion that we keep talking about, is it possible for these players to actually talk about the truth and discuss the truth with us? Instead of presenting this picture of, oh yes, I like what Dr. Lwen was saying, but he himself is in the private healthcare business. A business ultimately is a business. And a businessman, one of the qualities that we know businessmen for is the ability to be flexible. Look at big picture.
Yep. When you see the big picture and the opportunities.
Yes.
Some of those things. So the complaint also has been, how can you just say that once you have a comprehensive cover, C-section will only be 30,000 shillings? How?
Okay, why can't it be 30,000 shillings? Because that's the question. You need to explain to us.
Because also, if you
why
look
can't
at
it be 30,000?
how much NHIF paid in 2020-2021 financial year? 1.4 billion shillings for C-section. And C-sections have increased between 2016 and 2019. They've increased by 14%.
Why?
Most of them in private hospitals.
Why?
Is there something that indicates why more and more mothers are going for emergency C-section? Because it's not elective.
You know, one of the problems, again, with the health sector, especially the private health sector, given that they're a business, is this. Are they on the up and up about how it is they make their money? Because
it's not going to tell you.
Yeah, because every time you go, you take someone to a private hospital, and all they went was for something that you can understand. There's always a suggestion is they need to stay overnight for observation. Saying to observe what exactly?
Exactly. Can you observe me now?
Can they not go home and come back tomorrow?
It's 12:07. Let's take a quick break. As we observe how things are going, we'll be looking at the other newspaper headlines shortly.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
What's in the business daily city? As you observe.
As we observe you.
Let me observe what's in the business daily. Lots of interesting news today.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about this other one. There's something that is disturbing. Huh?
All right.
There's a mother in Gilgil who had threatened to wipe out her whole family, had even made an attempt as a mother, but in the end succeeded. Yes, she killed her boys aged 10, 6, and 1 year. She had threatened. Neighbors had rescued the children. This story was in yesterday's paper. Today, I'm reading it in the Star. But she succeeded because she managed to poison all her sons and then killed herself.
Wow.
You know,
what's the background? I mean, what was it that she was going through?
This woman had in the past threatened to take her life and that of her children because she said she was the father of the children had abandoned her. She didn't know how to look after the children. She was having a heart attack. She had threatened before. Some people had intervened. Then somehow she got back again with the children. Now, everything that I read about this story, because this woman had gone to a point where she was mentally disturbed, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
With all these signs and all these threats, I'm wondering, why was more not done? Because I'm reading the people who now came in to talk. The Gilgil MP has had something to say about it. The MCA has had something to say about it. And I'm thinking,
did they know about it?
Yes.
Before they...
Yes, this matter had come to their attention. Not to their attention, but the neighbors had known, the police had known.
It was in the community.
It was known. It was known. It was known.
What should the community have done? So yes, you are living in the neighbor, you know this woman, you know her children, you know the ex-husband, you know the story. The man left. Maybe there's more to the man leaving that you also know that has not been reported here. And then the woman is, saying, I've reached the end.
Her husband works for the Kenya Defence Forces.
Right.
He's currently serving in Somalia. And you asked a very valid question. What should the community do? The question is, whose responsibility are people in this position? Is it the neighbors or is it the state? That to me is a more valid question. We have a children's department. We have a social, social department. Okay? What do these children's department have a fairly clear idea what they do? How well they do it is a different discussion. What do we do with our citizens who seem to be in distress? Because that, unfortunately, is a function of the government.
Is there a policy like that?
I am not aware that there's such a policy.
Because we have social protection, yes. But social protection, is it a fluid one or is it those ones, wameandikishwa kwa chief and so they'll be receiving 2,000?
No, it is vague if you ask me from my understanding.
Or is social protection, okay, now we have hunger, so social protection comes in plus emergency plus all plus rollout.
Eric, what happens in such a case, that person will probably get themselves jailed. The police will be brought in. Now utafungwa because you're threatening to kill people. Is that problem solved?
No.
Then they'll be let go of and then they'll come back. What I'm asking is, there are departments that on paper are supposed to take care of the welfare of such people. People, as I said, who are in distress. But what is also a reality in Kenya is that anything that requires serious attention like this is left for either what we call well-wishers or it is left for people in the private sector. That particular role, the government plays a minimum part in it. Minimum. So if you don't have a strong community where people actually take action and say, Apana, let's take this lady to hospital, children should be taken here and here and here and here, nothing happens. It's the family who are now left to look after.
Yeah.
Now the question one asks is
the family capable also?
Yes, and where do they exist and where were they? And if a husband works for KDF, and she says she had a terrible marriage, she was not looked after, she was having to look after her children on her own, she was suffering, surely, what are we saying?
Were they legally married? Does KDF recognize this as a woman?
No, that is not indicated here. Yes.
Because that would be the question.
Yes.
As KDF,
what
their
kind of
legal
responsibility would they
spouses.
take up? Yeah.
And then what do you do with the legal spouse? If somebody is not a legal spouse, so what do you do as well?
You see, this particular story raises more questions than it provides answers.
It does.
But it follows a pattern that we have seen. People in desperation. Now, what is it that got this lady to the point. When someone is threatening to do something, they are telling you they need help. It's an attention-seeking behavior.
Absolutely, it's attention-seeking behavior, and
Yes.
she did it before, and that's what I was going to ask. That when she said it the first time, obviously she did not say it herself in her closet,
And she didn't.
She made it public.
She also did not go to the market and say,
Well, of course, no. But she told somebody.
Yeah.
She told somebody or two people, like, look, I'm going to do this.
She'd been talking about it in the neighborhood where she lived, and people
Yeah.
knew. She'd been saying, I'm going to do this. To those who would hear in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You see, why this story attracted me was that this pattern of mental illness that we have been speaking about, and we speak about it, we give examples, and we give it time, and usually it's not too much time, just a day or two. Something even crazier than what we spoke about now rears its head.
Yeah, when you thought that what you dealt with was absolutely crazy.
And
then
children seem to be at the all three children poisoned. Children seem to be at the center of all these things.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. There's another story, which now that we're talking about a soldier. There's a former soldier called Kennedy Ndu Okoh, who had gone to fight the Al-Shabaab under the Kenya Defense Forces in Somalia, came back, and then for 125 days did not report back to the barracks. So he went through the process, the disciplinary process, then KDF decided to dismiss him. He was terminated. Nunda went to court, and he was claiming that he was unlawfully terminated. The court has unfortunately said, no, you were not unlawfully sacked. He had a weak claim to warrant him the unspecified damages that he sought. He admitted that he did not resume duty after the end of his leave because he suffered post-war trauma and that he was under treatment at the Kisumu District Hospital for 3 months. This is according to Judge Stephen Radido. He filed a single document to support the contention that he fell ill and was treated, a Ministry of Health card from Kisumu District Hospital dated January 5th, 2016. The judge says this date appears altered. He adds that the alteration and other misgivings in Okoth's petition make it lack merit and it is dismissed with costs. Okoth petitioned the court in January 2021 saying that he was unfairly dismissed after giving his all to the military career, which had occasioned him mental illness. He sued the KDF Council and the Attorney General, alleging that his trial and discharge violated rights to fair administrative action, human dignity, freedom of association, fair labor practice, and fair hearing. The KDF trial tribunal that fired me was not properly constituted. I was not given notice of my hearings, and the reasons for my sacking were not valid. His employer, however, justified the delayed detention, saying it was occasioned by lengthy investigations of his absence and did not amount to a miscarriage of justice. They say, so this man, he came, he said he was away because he was unwell. He was taken to Forces Memorial Hospital. He was examined, and the trauma had not been detected. There was no trauma. Nothing psychologically was found on him. He says he went to this hospital in Kisumu. The document that he comes to produce to show that he was in hospital do not match anything. There's nothing anyway that's adding up to the claim that I was away for 125 days because I was unwell. So when he comes back, they're like, boss, clearly, you just descended to abscond
I
duty.
went, Eric, trauma is an interesting thing in this regard. When someone says they are feeling unwell and they've been in a war zone, you don't need them to come and tell you that they are feeling unwell. There needs to be a system that debriefs people who have come home on leave or who have come from the battlefront, just normal process and procedure to determine the wellness of their mind. That's what you need to do. Now, if someone says they're not feeling well, far be it from me to determine what it is that the Defense Forces Hospital determined. What I'm saying is this, if somebody says there's something wrong,
observe.
Please observe.
Let's go to the news. Good morning, it's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta now says Africa has made significant progress in the war against malaria in the last 2 years and attributed the success to a 4-point program implemented by the African Leaders Malaria Alliance. President Kenyatta spoke in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where he presented last year's malaria progress report at the 5th ordinary session of the Assembly of Head of State and Government of the African Union. President Kenyatta, who decried the sustained high malaria prevalence on the continent, isolated digitization and accountability and action scorecards, one of the 4-point agenda against malaria, as an important tool in the campaign against the disease. Now, the African Union member states have sustained their push for reforms at the United Nations Security Council. The continent's head of state and governments reiterate that Africa should get at least 2 permanent and 5 non-permanent seats on the Security Council. Leading the charge at the 35th ordinary session of the African Union, Ethiopia Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed remained adamant that Africa's voice on the world stage ought to be heard loud and clear. According to the Ethiopian Premier, the much sought after reforms and revitalization at the UN system is long overdue so as to reflect current global realities and ensure that it is a more representative and equitable body. The universal healthcare coverage program championed by the national government is finally ready for a rollout in the 47 devolved units. Health Cabinet Secretary Muthui said the UHC rollout will finally ease access to health services for millions of Kenyans. UHC is one of the big 4 strategic pillars declared by President Uhuru Kenyatta, which will see major policy and administrative reforms in the medical sector to ensure everyone has access to quality and affordable medical coverage by 2022. Now, the construction of classrooms to anchor the junior secondary classes for competency-based curriculum is almost 66% complete. This is according to Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha, who inspected and commissioned a CBC classroom at Aldina Visram Secondary School in Mombasa County. Magoha revealed that 572 classrooms are ready for commissioning and that over 6,470 classrooms will be constructed across the country in the first phase of the project. Deputy President William Ruto has announced the incorporation of Kwale Governor Salim Mvurya as one of the principals in the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. The Deputy President commended Governor Mvurya's commitment and work for Kwale residents, saying his track record in the county affairs had bought him a place at the decision-making table. He said Mvurya will join Amani National Congress Party leader Musalia Mudavadi, Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula, and Mathira Member of Parliament Rigathi Gachagua at the main table of the Kenya Kwanza coalition. And Orange Democratic Movement Party Director of Elections Junet Mohammed says they are likely to conduct joint party primaries under the Azimio la Umoja coalition. Junet, who spoke in Migori, said their cordial relationship with the Jubilee Party shall be extended into long-term political agreements. The Suna East Member of Parliament added that they are yet to sign a pact with the Jubilee Party ahead of the party primaries to ensure that they champion for a common cause. And Musalia Mudavadi, the leader of Amani National Congress, has slammed his political opponents, claiming that they cannot be forced to enter government on other people's terms. Mudavadi said he believes in forming a government with dignity and respect rather than following someone's terms for being welcomed into government. Speaking in Vihiga County, Mudavadi reiterated that the Kenya Kwanza movement believes in forming a new government that will uphold modest principles and attend to Kenyans' needs. And finally, Sadio Mane made up for a first-half penalty miss by converting the winning sport kick in a shootout as Senegal defeated Egypt to win a maiden Africa Cup of Nations title. The two sides were locked at 0-0 after extra time in the final, but Liverpool star Mane held his nerve in the shootout, which his team won 4-2. Mane had squandered the chance to put Senegal ahead inside 7 minutes in Yaoundé when his penalty was saved by Egypt goalkeeper Mohamed Abou Gabal. Egypt were chasing a record-extending 8th title. Congratulations to the Lions of Teranga. We hope that someday Harambee Stars gets to get to the Africa Cup of Nations and bring the trophy back home. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
And just like that, we're in traffic hour proper. Quite a lot of traffic on different parts of these streets this morning. Not even waiting for 7:30. We're seeing it building up in the whole of industrial area today. Langata Road, we're looking at kilometers of traffic. On Gong Road, it's looking sticky as you're getting towards the roundabouts and then out towards Community. In the whole Parklands, Westlands area, there's a lot of traffic there this morning. The Thika Superhighway, that looks tricky from the very beginning. And we're looking at it going past the Outer Ring Junction, way past that whole Zimmerman area. And so there's a lot of traffic there. Kiambu Road also building up significantly this morning. So it looks like it's going to be that Monday, well into February, and then also into the week as well. Mombasa Road also snaking along very, very slowly this morning, going towards Outer Ring and that whole area. The Eastern Bypass not looking too bad in terms of what you can use as an option, as well as the Southern Bypass. Don't forget, coming out of Westlands, use the Red Hill Link Road. That'll help this morning. And then let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
87 minutes after 7 on the 7th day of February 2022. And CT has the day's proverb.
Anayejitia lisilomhusu hupata lisilomridhi.
Anayejitia lisilomhusu.
Yes. A person who places and puts themselves in things which don't actually concern them, what they get are things which they cannot inherit. That's directly translated. But meaning is, don't XYZ poke your nose in other people's business.
Okay.
XYZ.
In other people's business.
Okay.
Keep your nose on your face.
Wow. Keep your nose to yourself.
Yes.
Smell your own XYZ.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So, the president is in Mombasa today. All right. And the Standard has given this story quite some good coverage. One, there is NHIF reviewing the costs. Second, another full page of NHIF and the new look NHIF and what it means, how much it will be contributing, and this is all towards comprehensive health, universal health coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And then page 15 of the Standard. Tell us about the president and where he's going.
And where he's going.
And what he's doing. Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's set to roll it out in 47 counties, rather, and with that launch today. He will preside over this at... so he'll be speaking at the Port Reitz Hospital, where the UHC launch will take place. Yesterday, the Health Cabinet Secretary, Muthui Kagwe, stamped this and said that the UHC programs championed by the national government were finally ready for rollout in 47 counties. The pilots that we had seen had been done in the counties of Kisumu, Machakos, Isiolo, and Nyeri. So this happened about 2 years ago, and I guess as a result of that, the country is now ready to roll into this program. The president is clear that this is one of the things that he wants to come off the back of his administration. And he said July 2022, we should be seeing UHC rolled out in medical facilities countrywide. NHIF, of course, being the vehicle that is going to carry UHC. So this is happening today, and they said, look, all systems go from here. They're saying they are ready. NHIF now, we are also seeing with the lowering of some of these costs, we're also seeing with the mandate to have 18-year-olds and above, making sure that you're contributing to this fund on a monthly basis, mandatory contributions. And then we're seeing that across board, this all will happen. The question, however, that very few people within these circles want to address is, in as much as you're saying that we will deliver UHC and that we're asking so many people then to be members, contributory members of the fund, mandated so by law, essentially, do we have everything that is absolutely necessary to make this work? You can have the vehicle, you can have the content, you can have everything. But do you have the fuel to get this vehicle moving? And I think, unfortunately, the answer that we are looking at right now is no. Can we guarantee? Because look, can we guarantee, for example, we had stories the other day of some of our level 5, level 6 largest referral, Kenyatta National Hospital, where we're constantly barraged with issues of this machine not working, this other one not working. What happens now when you're saying, for example, NHIF, again, the one that is going to deliver UHC, that it doesn't matter where you go in this country, so long as you have that card and you have contributed on a regular basis, you will be able to access medical care. That's essentially what we're saying. That anywhere you go in this country, having contributed, you will access medical care. Is the current infrastructure adequate to allow the delivery of this program? Do we have everything that we need? Whether you're looking from clinic to dispensary to health center and then hospital and then referral, etc., etc. Is everything working?
No.
No?
No.
Is everybody on the same page?
No.
Do we have everything that we need to deliver UHC as is being currently touted by the president?
Everything?
The
No.
Ministry of Health, NHIF, and all other stakeholders and practitioners? Do we need to deliver it in its entirety at the very beginning of the rollout?
You know, one of the things that the pillars they would argue that are fundamental to UHC is a well-funded health system.
Right.
Now, well-funded means it's not just you keep throwing money at it.
No.
Let's call it well-resourced, okay? Where systems work, the services that people require to be provided with is available. Because the one thing we have, personnel, we have.
Yes. Is
to
there an
the, to the point
adequate-
where we can
yeah.
export them.
Sure.
We have. That aspect covered. Do we have hospitals? We do have hospitals.
Yes.
Are they well-resourced? No.
No, they are not. Do we have an adequate and consistent flow of medicine, for example?
No.
No, we do not.
So, even if you introduce UHC and the structure within which UHC is supposed to exist and function, if it's rickety, if it's higgledy-piggledy like this one is, then even if you launch UHC, all the attendant benefits that have been spoken of loudly will not be attained.
You know, I think the focus here, just like very many things of this government, I'll speak like Wanjiru Gekonyo, this administration is so focused on the money side of things. It's a project, we look at the money side of things. Whatever, it's the money side of things. We looked at the money side of dams, we looked at the money side of the SGR, we looked at the money side of constructing roads, we forget everything else. This one, we are rolling out universal health coverage by looking at the money side of things. And that's why there have been this spirited attempt and effort at revamping NHIF to be the strategic buyer of health services. Fine, but we forgot everything else about it. That's why the government has not released a report of the pilot in the 4 counties. We do not know exactly what the government found out. They went to the people and they said, you know what, you get a card, it's a UHC card during this pilot, you'll be coming to the hospital, you get treated, you go back home. Okay? Now, what are the other elements that they discovered with this? Did they discover, for example, that health facilities that are supposed to be level 1, level 2, these are just those health centers at village level, that they are not working? Did they discover that they need some basics like medicine and they
Running
don't
water.
get those water,
Power,
even if it's solar or
Yeah.
connection to the grid?
basic power.
They don't have. They don't have those facilities. Did they discover this? Yes, they did. But are they telling us? No, they are not. Have we seen an attempt to work on those local dispensaries and health centers so we can improve them and say that, you know what, when you get sick, when you're feeling, a slight headache and all, you start at that local level so that we now start working on the referral system. Go to level 3, level 4, level 5, and ultimately to the national level 6.
I hear what you're saying, because you know what? I always say that data is what fuels the decision that you will make later. So here you are looking at the rollout. You did the reason why you do a pilot is to be able to find out what's the lay of the land. How are we going to be able to get about this? If the Ministry of Health, under the leadership of Cicely Kariuki at that time, when these pilots were taking place, and the begging, it was literal begging from stakeholders, private sector, everybody else, please let us know, after these pilots had taken place in these 4 counties in the country, what did you actually find out? Did we see that things were really, really bad? Did we see that, yes, people were presenting themselves to hospital with these cards, but they couldn't get 1, 2, 3? All right. Now that we have found that out, what then can we do to make sure that this situation changes? If we don't have water, what can we do? Are we going to then install water tanks? Are we going to dig boreholes? What is it that we're going to do? We don't have power in certain medical facilities. A level 1 hospital, like you're saying, a clinic, a dispensary at the village level, for example, doesn't have adequate medicine, because what we're looking at is like medicine, your basic medicine, before you get to the place where you're able to do basic procedures. You go to a clinic, for example, it is not manned. You have a clinical officer, which at that point is what you're required to have. You go to the next stage, you still have a clinical officer at the next stage, where you're required to have at least 1 doctor and a couple of nurses. What happens then with the spread of personnel, medical personnel across these facilities? There are so many, many things that the pilot would have shown that you would then use to roll it out now. How much of that information is currently being used now? Because from every report that we've gotten over the last 3 years of the medical situation in the country, not much has changed. Not much has changed.
A lot of money has been spent in the health sector. Oh, COVID, right? Money has been sent to the counties.
And we're even budgeting for more.
And there's more. The president, during Mashujaa Day, said some extra 5 billion shillings will be rolled out this financial year for COVID to help facilities. Where has that money gone? We have seen money going into facilities that are not in use. So counties went and constructed ICU facilities and they are not equipped. But at the basic level, those clinics, those health centers, and the village, the level 1s, level 2s, we are not bothered about them.
If you can go to a level 6 hospital, such as Kenyatta National Hospital, and you're supposed to get a procedure done, because look, this is not an attempt to keep harping on the negatives, but you have to be able to give an account of the real situation if you're going to be able to make it better. If you go to a level 6 hospital today for a procedure like chemotherapy and you're told that your medicines are not here, please go and buy somewhere else. If that is happening at what is supposed to be the most prestigious hospital in the region, right? What do you think is happening at the lower level facilities across the country? Just take a guess.
Actually,
take a stab in the dark.
In reality, you shouldn't be able to simply go to Kenyatta National Hospital.
You shouldn't have to walk in there.
You should be referred to it.
Yes, you shouldn't have to walk in there.
But this now is to their credit. They are Kenyans, they know what's happened, they realize, something.
It's okay, let's deal.
Somebody needs health care. Let's provide it. Let me just read something that is part of what the WHO considers to be the meaning of UHC. Okay? It means that all individuals and communities should receive health services they need without suffering financial hardship. And then they go on. It includes the following. Full spectrum of essentials. Quality health services, from health promotion to prevention, to treatment, to rehabilitation and palliative care across the life course. Now, some of these services at the very basic health center dispensary level, they can be provided.
Yes.
Promotive, preventive.
Actually,
basics.
those ones.
Absolutely.
And promotive and preventive. That's where you actually ensure, because it's at the village level, it's the community level, people get to understand what they need to do so that they do not fall ill.
Now, this is also where it comes out that you always harp on this, and we talked about this. I remember the DG in Nyeri County who was here talking about, and also the governor for Laikipia talking about what they were able to do with community health workers, weaving in about these systems. And so you ask the question, are you aware of the map or the footprints of the community health workers that you have in the country? Who do you have in the counties? Are you able to bring them on, for example, and offer them a stipend per month? You're not necessarily saying put them onto your payroll, but are you able to offer them something so that at the
and
local...
most importantly, give them the basics that they need.
Give them the basics that they need. What did we talk about? The thermometer, the little heart pump, the little pressure package that you can test people's pressure, so that at the dispensary level, a woman, a parent couple with their child can go to the dispensary and get immunization, for example. The majority of which does not happen right now.
You know,
people are trooping. You guys look at it like this. People are going to Kenyatta National Hospital for immunization. Basic vaccination, immunization. People are going to Kenyatta National Hospital.
You know, if you look at the preventative side of healthcare, this is something that people gloss over all the time. Because the focus of our healthcare has been curative. But surely you can't cure something which doesn't exist. So why don't you prevent it so that it doesn't exist, so you don't need to cure it? We've had research conducted in this country, and the results of those research projects have actually been adopted by other countries. There's one you've heard me speak about before, and I'm going to repeat it again. The integrated case management management, okay? ICCM. It was a very simple study, very simple. It sought to find out what could be done with, one, malaria, diarrhea. Take a guess, the third one. I'm asking you, basic disease.
Oh, you're asking me?
I'm asking you.
I don't know.
Okay. I start. Diarrhea, malaria, pick pneumonia. Think of another disease.
Tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis is a bit complicated. What they were trying...
Pneumonia.
What they were trying to determine was simply this. Is it possible for a local person who's just been trained in the basic to diagnose and perhaps offer treatment for some of the diseases that are most common in communities? That really was the understanding. And if so, what do you do? People were trained to understand the symptoms, and they were also told what to do. Phase 2, there'd be somebody in the village who had some basic training in healthcare, and they would have the basic requirement medication for it. Remember now, you've introduced a referral system from the just basic community workers. When this person was unable to understand this, it then went to a health facility. At the initial point, no one is at any health facility. At the health facility, you then have more than one person who can look into this thing.
Yeah.
Very rarely did it go beyond level 3 of a hospitalization. And the majority of people who trooped what then were the district hospitals, or what we call sub-county hospitals, reduced. And the reduction was up to 75%. Now you tell me, if you reduce hospital attendance at that level by 75%,
that is...
You tell me the cost that you reduce. Now, you see the reason why I brought ICCM into the discussion. Why didn't our counties implement this thing? This thing was conducted in Homa Bay County.
It's known. If you go to the Ministry of Health, you'll find not just this particular one, but many others that show the importance of having preventive.
Yes.
That's why we have a whole director of medical services in charge of promotive and preventive care at DMS level.
Yes, we do.
Okay? Because the government knows the importance of this. But, iko pesa hapo? No. Where is the money?
There's no interest.
Money is in curative and palliative. That's what, this whole push for us, looking at UHC, it's so
one track
that I just look at it and you wonder, okay, so what? So I pay for for NHIF, all right? And then NHIF has gone and forced the hospitals, all of them, to accept this is the rate. Private hospitals will, at some point, agree with NHIF at a certain rate. Public hospitals they have no option. They'll offer. Public hospitals are the ones that don't have access to medicine all the time. Public hospitals are the ones that have breakages in their equipment. Public hospitals are the ones that don't have labs working. Public hospitals are the ones, all those things that we talk about are in public hospitals. So still, a lot of the NHIF money will still end up going to
private hospitals. And Eric, as you say correctly, you know why? The very things that don't work in public hospitals
are what drive people to.
Precisely. So one of the things that I read first about the basics that WHO considers to be basic, to ensure that people don't get into financial ruin as a result of it.
Yes.
Now, that is where this absence of ensuring that our public hospitals are resourced is taking people to. So a disproportionate amount of money is being spent on healthcare when they shouldn't be. Because these very same people pay for NHIF, these very same people pay taxes. These same people.
Yeah. So are we saying, essentially what we're saying is that what we're looking at is where the money is going to come from, or where the money is, or where the money can be made, without actually looking at healthcare? We're not actually looking at healthcare.
Do you remember this discussion?
We're not looking at healthcare in the broad spectrum of how it should be looked at.
You know, when we had this discussion a while back, and we asked that fundamental question, okay, you say the money you get is not enough. Tell us what you've done with the one you've got.
This is it.
Yes, tell us, okay? This is what we get, this is what we do with it. Can you tell us? And we'll ask the question, what could it do? For me, the game changer in this discussion took place the day we had Dr. Luga, the Chief Officer of Health,
who told us what you can do with $1 billion shillings.
For NMS.
Yes. I listened to that and I said, my goodness gracious me. You know what I heard him telling me? Every county in this country with the money. Yes.
With $1 billion shillings, you can have 24 turnkey medical facilities with $1 billion bob.
Media, we're heading towards our 10th year. When could they have done this? In the first and second year
of devolution.
All the counties could have done it. By the time the government was giving them more money for blah, 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 blah,
we would have had running facilities. And don't you think that 24 medical facilities is a dent? It's a huge dent in what is needed. As in, you destabilize that lack completely. 24 medical facilities working per county. Just as an example.
It's a big one.
Hey.
I've got to throw in here, and that is just being a wet blanket. Until the day that I see an Auditor General's report
to tell us about the cost,
telling me that all these things that we've been told here by Dr. Oluga and Lieutenant General Badi are actually true, I will always look at it with two sides.
You know what fuels your doubt?
Yeah.
Can I tell you what fuels your doubt?
Yes.
That you've looked at years and years of inactivity. And so it is highly unbelievable that something like this can actually happen.
Yeah, plus I've also not heard it from anyone, any other quarter.
Have you had anybody disputing it?
I have not heard anybody disputing it. Neither have I had people walking around Nairobi saying, you know what, now we have new health facilities. I haven't heard that.
Actually, I have.
I haven't heard it.
I've also had people telling me about boreholes that they didn't have in the water supply. I've heard.
Well, even in Gilu's time, I heard people saying there were boreholes and they didn't work after 6 months.
Yeah, but
they work for a short time.
Eric, I get what you're saying.
The issue I'm raising, though, is, okay, it's possible that, yes, we have had 24 new health facilities built.
Was it 24, 21?
21, 20, whatever. 21?
Yes.
Did they actually cost less than $1 billion shillings? I have my doubts about it, but that shall be proven in due course. However, the thing is, those health facilities being put into circulation and actually going to work for people, perfect. If we're having a conversation around UHC, since the president said, I want UHC to be my legacy 4 years ago, if we had gone into robustly looking at how to start look at those health facilities in the communities and make sure 1, 2, 3, 4 work. If we are coming to a point where we are saying, we have streamlined everything. We have streamlined equipment. We have the medical leasing and the scandal around it, but those ones are working. All those machines in those health facilities across the country are working. Number 2, we have health facilities that have access to drugs all the time, and the procurement system is working. It's just tweaking here and there, maybe. If those ones were working, then I'd sit back and say, all right, so with now NHIF having a new lease of life, with the new NHIF law that's in place, then UHC could be moving. Short of that, I'm like, this UHC is all a money business. What we have is county governors who have gone ahead and said they are working on health. They have not worked on health. We have NMS, which has said it's working on health. Time will tell us when some people become governors what will happen and what they're involved with in this
It's interesting
whole
that you
project.
say that. It's interesting that you say that because in today, there's also a story today about the projects that have been abandoned as governors are leaving their office, going somewhere else. Projects that they would have started and completed that we would have seen something totally different today.
All structures.
White elephant projects. But look, before we go to the break, Eric, without the basics, I'm not even talking about anything fancy. Without the basics for health, and I'm going really granular now, to running water, to power, to staff, manned,
to
facilities, to medicine. Leave alone all these other big things you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Without those basics, a program like this will not work.
Someone is already telling me some of those new health facilities. See that whole challenge KNH and the others are having about drugs.
Already.
Kwani, you think those facilities are not in Kenya?
They're having a problem with the drugs.
With the drugs.
Which means they exist.
Yeah.
The facilities exist.
The question he was raising.
Right.
The facilities do exist. We have seen the structures. Those ones do exist. Are they health facilities? It's 28 minutes to 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Time for us to take a break. Let's take a look at the traffic. We'll open up the phone lines for you. The president is launching the Universal Health Coverage Program in Mombasa this morning. So, do you see, with your interaction with the local health facilities, do you see as if all ducks are in a row for rollout of UHC? That's what we'll be asking you to tell us. 0719 012 600 after the break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us to assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi la Wokovu is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well. No, Jeshi la Wokovu.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's cloudy in Nairobi at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 16 today. Mostly sunny at 15, highs of 27 and lows of 13. Partly sunny conditions at 12 in Nyeri, highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 24 in sunny Eldoret, currently at 11, going to lows of 8. Mombasa will be sunny today at 26, currently highs of 32 and lows of 25. Malindi is 26 and sunny, highs of 31 and lows of 26. We're looking at partly cloudy conditions at 20, highs of 26 in Kisumu, and we'll see lows of 18. While in Kakamega, it's hazy at 20, highs of 27 and lows of 16. We'll see cloudy conditions in Kampala at 19, highs of 26 today, and Dar es Salaam is mostly cloudy at 24, highs of 31 and lows of 24. There's also a haze over Lagos skies at 25. We'll see highs of 33. While at 12, Johannesburg is sunny. It'll go to highs of 24 today. It's clear at 23 in Kinshasa. 33 will be the high, back down to lows of 23.
Spice up your life.
All right, things are going south in the south. Langata Road doesn't look too pretty this morning, going to the roundabout at Timor. Heading out onto Raila Odinga Way, things have slowed down considerably as you then try to approach Gong Road. Okay, so where are you going this morning? Let me let you know what it looks like going into the CBD. That's already quite packed. If you're not out and about, it might take you a while to get there. You might want to sit tight where you are and just hold on until that opens up this morning. All right, looking into Westlands, that also slowed down some. You can use the Red Hill Link Road to get out of Westlands, but if your business is in Westlands, it looks like you're going to be sitting around for some time as well. All right, we're looking at Limuru Road, in and outbound traffic all the way from Village Market. It's snaking down towards Wangari Maathai Way, and so that is interesting. The Thika Superhighway is what is giving headaches this morning, as is Kiambu Road. Kiambu Road is really messy, guys. Really sticky traffic is what we're looking at now. Outer Ring, as you're trying to connect to the Thika Superhighway, connecting with Juja Road, traffic there as well. So everywhere you look in the city this morning, there is a packed situation. What are we going to need? Dollops of patience and sharing information. Let us know where you might be stuck. What's going on in your neck of the woods? Talk to us. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on SpiceFM online, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, and Facebook, and also the conversation happening on Twitter and Instagram, SpiceFM KE. With you this morning, as every morning, is Ndu Okoh, CT Muga, and Eric Latiff. We are talking about universal health coverage. President Uhuru Kenyatta is in Mombasa today, and he will be at where is it? Port Reitz?
Port Reitz Hospital,
yes.
yes.
Port Reitz Hospital, where he's about to roll out the program called Universal Health Coverage.
You know, what is of interest is that Port Reitz Hospital for the longest time was considered the referral hospital for mental health cases at the coast.
At the
not
coast.
In Mombasa. Yes.
It was a coastal referral for mental health.
Yes, it was. For the longest time.
Yeah. Now, with this, basically what we've seen happening in the health sector in the last couple of months is, number one, we have a revamped NHIF, where there's a new law that mandates everybody to contribute towards NHIF. Remember, previously, what we had is the NHIF was compulsory for people who are formally employed, and then voluntary program was introduced for people who are not formally employed. Now, everybody, compulsory, as long as you're above the age of 18. Now, of course, there's going to be the graduation of people who are still students and they're in school, whether they get paid for by their parents. And then the people who are considered poor by the government, they'll be paid for by the government, people who are elderly and people who are living with disabilities. The definition of disabilities, I don't know. Under the current social protection program is severe disability, which is still quite contentious. However, now everybody must contribute to NHIF. NHIF will have a big kitty, which it will use to finance the cost element of healthcare. Is everything else aligned? And that's what we've been discussing for the last half an hour. Is everything else aligned? Do we have the health facilities working? Do we have the logistics working? Are the hospitals getting medicine and other supplies on time? Do we have healthcare workers adequate from at all levels of the health facilities in the country? And that's why we are asking you this morning, based on what you have seen, because you're in this country, you are dealing, everybody at any given day is dealing with a healthcare issue. Either it's somebody whom you're helping to pay, whose bill you're helping to pay, or your own self. Based on everything that you know and you're seeing, are you confident that the UHC that President Uhuru Kenyatta is about to launch today will work? Are you confident that the UHC that President Uhuru Kenyatta is about to launch today will work? 0719-012-600.
Health is a default function.
Yes.
Even as we talk about putting up new buildings, the question I want to ask is, are we certain that all the buildings that were supposed to be specifically earmarked for health purposes, are they all in working condition?
No, we know they're not.
We know.
Yes. So before we think of even putting up new structures, and because remember, in the absence of the structure that will house the UHC, and it's not just the buildings, it is the buildings, working equipment, not the equipment. Equipment even exists, but they're not in working order. Medical supplies, drugs, personnel, we said we have in abundance. If those aren't in place, even if we launch the UHC today, in what environment will the UHC exist?
Yeah. We know, we were told by the Deputy Governor of Nyeri that when the pilot was being rolled out in Nyeri County, what they did is now they had to look at the small clinics and health centers.
Right.
And there were some that they found, yes, a structure had been put up by government, but no staff deployed, and it hasn't been working. It wasn't connected to water, it wasn't connected to electricity. And the first thing that they needed to do as county was connect these things to water, to electricity. Cut the grass around it.
Surely.
Just look at the ceiling.
Make it
It's falling.
habitable.
Make it work.
Stop it from being a wildlife sanctuary.
Exactly.
Yes.
2020, we read the story here of a facility in Nakuru that had now been converted. Somebody had actually seen this thing is not working.
Yes, it is.
Nobody comes. It's just sitting. Had used it to as a poultry farm.
Yes, I've come across a health facilities where you have a tree growing in the middle of staff quarters. I mean, growing inside the house. So you wonder, how long has that thing been disused?
A tree.
Tree, not shrub. Tree. So.
Janet, you were on the line, and we had you on the line. She's back. Janet, good morning.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Very well.
The question is, how are you, Janet? You sound tired.
7, When you talk about health, I go haywire.
Okay.
So now, I think we need to stop politicizing about the whole aspect of health.
Yeah.
You know, if the government needs to help, it's going to help. If it doesn't need to help, so be it. I don't see why most of the people are crying out loud, right, left, and center when it comes to seeking health services. And then all of a sudden, when we have the vote coming, we are talking about universal health care. That to me shocks me. So that to me, I'm sorry to say, it's nonsensical.
Why?
No, because where have they been? And I'll give you a very good example, Eric. Last week, I lost a patient and friend to suicide. The week before, the colleague to suicide. The week before, again to suicide.
Wow.
So we are looking at suicide and mental health, you know, and that really gets to my heart, yeah? So when I hear now people now starting to say, oh, we are going to start this universal health care, and you've not been there, you've not been discussing about mental health, and when you discuss about it, it has to be political. So help me help you. It's not fair, by the way. It's not fair. I feel we are doing injustice to people, and it's sad. It's sad, by the way. It's really sad. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your call, Janet.
Yeah.
Asante. Let's all take heart, though. Julia says, the whole Hatupangwingwi thing is a Kenyan way of clinging on to sanity. But on this UHC stuff, tunapangwa, and we know it. It's happening, and we know it. It's a sad side of things, and that's why we're asking you this morning, 0719-012-600. Are you confident that the UHC that the president is launching today at Port Reitz Hospital in Mombasa, are you confident that it is going to work? With everything that you live in this country, you have seen. The president started talking about universal health coverage in 2017, soon after he was sworn in for the second term. He said, this is going to be my focus among 3 other things for the second term. We have seen the revamping of NHIF. Have we seen the revamping of health facilities across the country? What are we seeing with regards to deployment of healthcare workers? What are we seeing with regards to sorting out the logistics? You go to very many county facilities and you find that they don't have medicine. They don't have the simple supplies. Why? Because counties have not paid KEMSA. Why have counties not paid KEMSA? They'll tell you, because we have not received our money from the National Treasury. So this whole issue just causes delays. And people go to hospital. They are told, go and we need you to go and buy this medicine. We need you to go and buy this bandage. We need you to go and do a test in such a certain facility. Yet we have the government today is still paying for equipment that we leased. It was supposed to have been sent across the country to various facilities.
For some that's actually not being used right now.
Some of them are not being used.
Yeah.
Some of them have never
been used.
Still brand new. You see, the thing, unfortunately, because of situations like this, what it does is that it casts a very negative image on the program itself. And I think that the program itself, having not been touched, the manner in which it has been planned is authentic. And I think it bears with it a great deal of integrity. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Just stay with me here. That if rolled out in the manner in which it was initially designed to, you would have a beautiful thing. However, what we are trying to do here is that you're taking a program and that you're fitting it into a system which unfortunately has been failing for the last easily 20 years. Now, taking something which is authentic in the manner in which it has been planned out, that it should actually roll out, and then trying to fit it into something which already has rot, it cannot work. And I think that's what we need to see here. So that it does not look as though every time people cry out and you're saying we needed something and you say, what are you complaining about? See, the government has given you UHC. But you need to look at it in its entirety and say, hold on a minute. The way in which it was designed is actually a beautiful thing. But to what are we applying it? And I think that's the crux of the matter, that if you are applying it to something that cannot work because you do not have the basics, then that's the problem. And we're saying the same thing, whether you look at UHC today, whether you look at the new education system, whereby that you're asking more stakeholders to be involved, but the very basics that they need to plug in, they do not have. Or they do not exist. Not that they cannot exist, but they do not exist because attention is not being applied. And I think that is the problem that we are seeing here. That UHC in and of itself is a fantastic thing. It's modeled against, for example, the NHS in the UK, which even after it has been used for the last 30 years, is still not perfect. But it is a model that can be used. But did they start and roll with it on day one? They did not. Did they make sure that they had all their ducks in a row eventually over time? Yes, they did. And I think that's what we're asking for today. Can we make sure that we have the basics? What if tomorrow you're rolling out UHC and then yet again, doctors, medical officers, nurses unions go on strike because you have not paid attention to the CBAs that you had with them? You roll out UHC and then you're getting into the dispensary level and you don't have running water. You don't have power. You want somebody to deliver a woman of a baby and you don't have power or basic kit to do so. So here you are and you say, let's pay 10,000 shillings to have somebody be delivered of a baby, but then you don't have what you need. These kits, they're not working. You say, let's give you radiotherapy or let's give you chemotherapy for X amount, but you don't have the medicine. Do you see?
It's about the money. Kept saying where is the money going? If you look at the area where the money is, that's where things are going to happen, and easily. Like Andrew is asking, where are those 140-foot containers that were modified as mobile clinics in China and imported to Kenya in 2015? And now you're talking about UHC? Kill me now.
You know, it isn't UHC is not intended to provide healthcare. It's intended to provide quality healthcare. Now, something which bothers me, it ought not to, but it does. There are too many things happening this year, an election year. And unfortunately, the moment it involves money, I get scared. Why do I get scared? If NHIF is to function the way insurance generally functions, you pool the money together. It's in pooling. And you determine that not everybody is going to be sick at the same time. And so, why quality healthcare comes in is because the very things you're talking about, you're saying irrespective of where you go, if it's a public hospital, this discussion we're having about private hospitals, that thing will come to an end. You will get that care that you need
wherever you
are, and it's quality. It is the same care you would get if you enter that private hospital. that you plan to go to.
After all those healthcare workers you find have been trained in the same facility using the same curriculum
by the government.
Same government. All right. If all healthcare workers, starting from a doctor to a nurse to a clinician to the lab technicians, everybody has been trained using the same curriculum, examined in the same exam, and certified by the same body, right? It means that the quality of a doctor that you get here is the same quality of a doctor that you get in Magarini.
Yes, and that you'll go to Magarini and you will find a specialist who will be able to deal with a very complicated issue or one that needs specialized training, as if you went to a private hospital somewhere in Mombasa.
Yep.
It would be the same thing. And that now what happens is that you are not forcing, because right now people go to private hospitals because they've almost been forced to do so.
Actually, it's not almost.
They've been forced to do so.
What option do you have?
You do not have an option. And so what we are saying is, if you have it running in the manner in which it's supposed to, that the public system will then be able to buffer the greater population.
Yes.
This is what we are saying here.
Yes.
And you know what?
And it starts from, it starts from the promotive and preventive. Even the NHIF CEO, Dr. Kamunyo, when he was here, he said, for us to be able to make sure that the money that everybody collects and pulls together is actually able to run around, is to make sure we don't have so many people seeking.
Yes. And they don't need to.
Yes.
There is this deliberate talk about quality healthcare. But in my mind, there's also this deliberate approach to ensuring that the preventative care of healthcare is not promoted. I'm saying it's deliberate because
then you won't make money because you need people to be sick in order to make it.
You can't. You see, what community health workers do is obvious and straightforward. It's not something that you require to study for a long period of time to understand. No. And where they've been deployed, the results are amazing. Again, you don't need to study it at great length to understand it. It's very simple. And it's even cost effective. Why is it that the county governments, why is it, even when they've inherited systems where these people existed, they leave them undeployed? Why?
Beatrice is asking me to give an example of how it would be that community health workers can work with preventative care to make sure that hospitals are not overburdened. Example, malaria, for example. If at the dispensary or clinic level, in all areas, you have community health workers who've been deployed by county governments, for example, to talk to people on a regular about what you can do to prevent yourself from being essentially bitten by the mosquito and stopping yourself then from getting malaria. The treated nets, for example, and how you can treat them in a right manner, what you can do, knowing what happens and mosquito behavior in the evening. This is what essentially a community health worker would do. Going around talking to people one-on-one. So what you do, you essentially prevent you're going into preventative mode here. And you're preventing people essentially from being bitten closer in the evening time when they would normally. And the likelihood of them getting malaria then reduces significantly, especially in those malaria-prone areas. So what you do, you reduce the burden on the facility because people are not then presenting themselves to hospital for medication for malaria.
You know,
it's clear.
It is known where mosquitoes breed.
Mm.
So one of the targets would be to ensure that you kill them at birth.
Yeah.
They don't breed. And even when they have bred and they're alive, it is known where they nestle. Again, you exterminate them at that level. These are cost-effective measures.
Yep.
And you know what is the crying shame? The local authorities used to do these
It is things that have been done before.
Yes.
This is we're
And
not
they're
inventing
cheap,
this one.
Because you're basically just
They're
telling
cheap.
the community. Mobilize the community. Community will remove
Make sure that there's no
places where
stagnant
there's
water,
no
things
stagnant
like
water.
this.
Cut grass. Community. We are not using something that we have that is very powerful in this country, and that is community.
No, we're not. No,
Go
we're
to
not.
any community and you tell people, okay, come together, let's do this and the other. They'll come together, they'll do it.
Because they'll understand the basics of what you're trying to do and they'll come together and do it. Absolutely.
You know, the fundamentals of community health workers was you always chose locals.
Yep.
You employ people whose they are employed in the community they belong to. So these are people who are known. So it is very simple and easier for the messages to be accepted. Now, the government, the county governments know this, so that they don't know. But for the longest time with HIV and AIDS care and treatment, it was assumed that was somebody else's job. And they want it to remain that way. They keep saying they're not funded adequately. My question still remains, tell us what you've done, what
with the
you
little
have
that
received.
they gave to you, what is it that you've actually been able to do?
That money is not little.
It's
That
a lot-
money
it's
is
actually
not
a lot.
little.
The people who are leaving office after serving 2 terms have basically spent over 100 billion shillings in very many of these counties.
Yes, they have. In each of those counties, yes.
Right?
100 billion, 120, yes.
Some of these people should not be allowed to actually exit office until they're cleared. You see the way we have clearance certificate by
Yeah, we won't
DCI?
give you your, yeah.
You need an Auditor General's clearance certificate for you to go and live in peace.
And for you to go and try and vie for some other public office. or
Especially
something
that
else.
one.
Yes.
You want to vie for anything else, you have got to be
Tell us
cleared
what
by the
finish
Auditor
this
General.
one that you did.
What did you do with the money that we gave you? Taxpayers' money.
You know,
others are now, choosing their successors. So I had these projects and I want to continue with that money train. So try and influence the successor who comes in. Others, they are getting people who are basically the beneficiaries of all these billions of shillings that went, especially in healthcare, are seeking political office.
Yeah.
People are vying to be governors because they know that when they come in, they'll continue the entire gravy train that they started in health.
And keep milking the cash cow. That's it. And that's the thing. You can see through it that this is the intent. The intent is just to continue the bleed. It's to continue the bleed. Why should you have so much in terms of projects that we're starting? It's true. This headline, it's an eyesore. It's an eyesore that these should be happening. And I can bet my bottom dollar that everywhere in the country where there have been unfinished projects, health has been affected.
The ISO is where? It's Nandi, right?
Yes. Health has been affected.
The governor of Nandi has been building a governor's office in Nandi. The governor of Nandi is leaving office and there's a shell.
Yes.
Don't worry. He's not alone. He's not alone. I'm not sure whether the county would kind of finish theirs.
Yeah.
But it was a great big shell at some point. Maybe they finished it now. Projects that were started are not completed. Those ones galore. And there are many people who are going to be campaigning on that particular ticket.
And they'll be opening their mouth saying that they are going to make sure that they improve the health situation in the county. I'm telling you, it is a thing that it's like bit and bridle. It's like what is used to talk to the people of the county every time they go and politic, every time they go and try to get people in their corner. We will make sure that health facilities are working. We will make sure that your health is taken care of. over and over again. And I'm telling you, health is touched in these places where these projects are unfinished, where the money cannot be accounted for.
Tunapangwa, we know it, but we shouldn't accept to be pangwed like this. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep you right here. In the next hour, we have Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. We talk about some bill that before Parliament about the elections, amending the elections law. Why are we amending it now? And also the impact of everything else that's happening politically. A very good morning to you. 8 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Aseto. Housing and Urban Development Principal Secretary Charles Hinga has expressed hope that Phase 3 of the Kazim Town initiative may kick off in March. Hinga told the youth who had registered for the National Hygiene Program that there is light at the end of the tunnel after the National Treasury submitted a supplementary budget for consideration and approval by Parliament. The third phase, which is expected to run until June 2022, will be implemented in over 900 informal settlements across all counties to support malaria control efforts and stalled construction projects across the country. The Communications Authority of Kenya has welcomed the announcement by the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, on the classification of infrastructure in the telecommunications sector and other key sectors in the economy as critical infrastructure. In a statement, Communications Authority of Kenya Director General Ezra Chiloba noted that in the telecommunications sector, the infrastructure that has been declared critical spans across data and voice communication, internet connectivity, domain and internet protocol management, as well as data and information management. CA says for the last 4 years, about 25 masts have been destroyed, mostly in northern Kenya, costing over 200 million shillings in repair and restoration of services. 12 of the destroyed masts were in Mandera County, while others were in Garissa and Wajir counties. The Kenya Civil Aviation Authority has warned unregistered operators against illegal flying of drones amid surge in use, especially in political rallies. KCAA Director General Gilbert Kibe has said the use of unmanned aircraft systems, also known as drone, is expected to increase significantly in coming years, backed by rising demand for data collection, research, environmental conservation, especially around the lake basin and other natural resources such as forest, survey and mapping, as well as academic research. In recent years, use of Category A drones, which are deemed low risk, and Category B, which are medium risk, have been on the rise, especially in political rallies, where the urge to showcase mammoth attendance for optics has skyrocketed. Now, State House Chief of Staff Nzioka Waita has maintained that he will be going to the ballot in search for the Machakos gubernatorial seat. According to Nzioka, some leaders in Ukambani have reached out asking him to shelve his ambitions to allow experienced politicians compete for the governorship. He was speaking in Mitaboni, Machakos County, where he pledged to spur the economic growth of the county while urging the youth to be at the forefront of championing for quality leadership. Waita is expected to resign on February 9th, after which he will officially kick off his campaigns. Now, Deputy President William Ruto says he has temporarily suspended his contributions to churches until after the August 9th general election. The move is influenced by the Elections Act, which bars politicians from contributing to fundraising activities after the gazettement of the election date. The Elections Act 2011 prohibits anyone aspiring for political office from participating in a fundraising 8 months before the election. This applies to all levels of office, from the President, Governor, Senator, MP, Women Representative to the MCA seat. And a 7-member head of state committee will now consider Israel's observer status in the African Union after the union's top organ deferred deliberations on the matter Sunday. The AU Assembly meeting in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia for the 35th ordinary session tasked the committee to review the decision by the African Union Commission Chairperson Musa Faki to grant Israel observer status after Palestine protested the decision. The 7-member panel consists of President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, Nigeria's Muhammadu Buhari, Rwanda's Paul Kagame, Algeria's Abdelmajid Tebboune, Cameroon's Paul Biya, DRC's Felix Tshisekedi, and Senegal's Macky Sall. And Pope Francis has condemned female genital mutilation and trafficking of women for prostitution, calling them humiliating affronts to women's dignity and urging officials to do everything possible to end both. According to the United Nations, FGM is concentrated in about 30 countries in Africa and the Middle East, but is also practiced by immigrant populations elsewhere. More than 4 million girls are at risk of undergoing FGM this year, according to the UN. And finally, the US military has said that a single Islamic State bomber killed 13 US troops and at least 170 Afghans at Kabul airport last August. Note the complex attack originally suspected and that it could not have been prevented with the resources on hand. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM.
Continuing in most parts of the city this morning, we're looking at it coming out of industrial area, quite hot and heavy. On Langati Road, this is an absolute nightmare today, not moving at all, crawling along very slowly and then spilling over into Nairobi West and then onto Raila Odinga Way. That happens. And then connecting with the with Ngong Road today, and that's also moving very slowly all the way from the junction out towards Community and then touching on Haile Selassie Avenue. So that's not a fun place to be this morning. Neither is it on the Thika Superhighway, which is moving very, very slowly and coming out of Thika Town and then connecting up there. Quite some traffic this morning, guys, so it doesn't look fun. Also, Kiambu Road is quite packed as it is on Limu Road going into the western part of the city. Peponi, that whole Westlands area, Wayaki Way. Woo, this is one for the books today. Also looking at Mombasa Road coming off from Sabaki out towards the SGR, moving equally as slowly. The construction continues, many diversions, folks, so it doesn't look nothing but sticky right now. Let's talk, guys. Do you find a good route that we can use? Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is 7 minutes after 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, on the 7th day of February 2022. Welcome to the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. We are here with a guest, and this is Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. And before we welcome him and introduce him, let's hear the day's proverb.
Anayejitia lisilomhusu hupata lisilomridhi.
Ate?
He who puts themselves inside, directly translating, things which don't concern them, normally get things which they didn't inherit. That's directly translating it. But the meaning is, stop poking your XYZ nose in other people's business.
Don't poke your XYZ nose
in other people's
XYZ business.
ABC business.
Senator Kipchumba Murkomen.
Yes.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to the hot seat once again.
Thank you.
Good to have you back.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And is it still a Happy New Year? No, it's too late.
It is.
It's Happy New Year till June.
Because it is a new year.
Or a quarter of the year.
Have we seen each other since the beginning of the year?
No. We've not seen each other.
It's Happy New Year.
It's a Happy New Year. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you very much.
Yes,
And,
it is.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. And thank you for accepting to wake up early.
This was too early today. Considering the match last night, we sat late to watch the match, but it was enjoyable. So waking up this early was not
Who
easy.
are you supporting between Egypt and Senegal?
Definitely Senegal.
Oh, now you can say Senegal.
I said it before. I said it before.
We just wait for the team that wins.
No.
See, I had said.
No.
So
really,
your team has been Senegal.
No.
What was your
my,
team
My
for the
team was Nigeria. So we were eliminated too early.
We really were. But your choices are stellar, I must say, Senator.
Yeah. You
So-
choose one that loses spectacularly and you choose one that wins spectacularly.
I want to ask, what determines your choice? What is it that made you choose these teams?
I don't know. I mean, generally, even if you ask yourself why you support a particular football club, it is the first time you watch football, for example, or the first players who made you like the particular team. For example, when I started really following Nigeria, we all know that they were doing so well. It was in the mid-90s. And that time we had JJ Okocha, you had people like Emenike, you had people like Kanun Wonko, you
Sunday
had
Olise.
Olise. All of those players who came to play here.
We actually...
I'm very impressed.
Babayaro.
I'm very impressed, I won't lie.
So Taribo West and all those players. So that time, so because of that, then historically,
And then they went ahead and won the Olympics.
and then they
And
won
then
the
that cements you
Olympics,
to them.
and you know all that, and they were playing very entertaining football. That particular time. Then slowly you now develop just a liking for particular teams. Yeah.
Great. A lot is happening politically in the country, and that's why we have you in the studio, so we can discuss this. And let's start with a bill that will be coming to you in the Senate after it goes through the National Assembly.
Yeah.
And this, just reporting of it, has raised a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
This is the Elections Amendment Bill.
Correct.
That's before the National Assembly.
Correct.
Now, reportage of this particular bill has, pinned it as saying that this bill is seeking to, first of all, remove the live transmission of results. Secondly, this bill is seeking to reintroduce the archaic manual transmission of results or even manual voting and very many other things. What's the correct position? I mean, you're a lawyer, you're a legislator.
First of all, I am privileged to be here, having served in the select committee that was established after was it Code Mandamano? It wasn't NASA yet, about the election laws. And so I was in the select committee that was chaired by Senator James Orengo and Senator Kiraitu Murungi then. And we were all there, myself, Mutula, Moses Kuria, and all these actors. That time, Boni Kalwale was acting for the other side, with Mudam also was acting for the other side, and we are all in this committee. One of the most transformative provisions in that law, as amended in 2016, was to make sure that results are electronically transmitted, meaning that in every polling station you have to scan the results and be able to transmit. And then there was also the part of biometrics, making sure that verification is biometrically done. But the voting remains manual. We all know that our voting is not yet electronic. In other parts of the world, you get to the polling station, you use your biometrics, and then also you choose your candidate from a machine, which is electronic. But ours, you manually do it, finish, and then from the polling station, the scanned copy is the one that is transmitted.
The Forms 34s.
Now, because of the confusion around the presidential petition of 2017, the Raila Odinga versus Uhuru, there is an amendment. Now we don't know. You saw that IBC is saying, okay, they owned up to the amendment, and then Jubilee itself is disowning the amendment. But we all know that an amendment that comes from IBC usually comes through the committee. So the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee should have been the one prosecuting the bill. And what happens is that they meet prior pre-publication, they meet with the commission and they agree on a raft of these amendments. Then now it's introduced to the House, and then again a process of public participation ensues and the debate and all the amendments that are going to follow. But this an amendment that comes from government, that is originating from the state, comes through the majority leader. In this regard, this bill has been published by the majority leader, meaning that the government is owning
coming from the executive.
The executive itself. That's the first suspicion. But number two, if you look at the amendments that have been put forth, most of them are saying that, particularly the amendment of Section 39 of the Act, is focusing on the authenticity of results being based on the manually delivered form. Now it is both 34 and 35. Yeah, the original form in polling station and the collated form in the constituency. Now, if you why we were opposed to the argument that electronically transmitted results was important for IBC is because of the history that we had. That if you say you're just going to wait for manually delivered results, then you're going to have this controversy all the time about polling officer running away.
Like we saw in 2007, Kivutu saying, I don't know whether
this one with all that. And so that is what generated the debate.
So there are two things here. Just for purposes of having everybody on board in the conversation. There is, after the 2013 petition, and then they moved to amend the elections law in 2016.
Correct.
And this is what now formed this it's actually a joint parliamentary select committee of both the National Assembly and the Senate where you sat.
And both sides of the
political divide.
It was 50-50 actually.
And then that ended up with a law that was amended.
Correct.
Then we went to the Supreme Court.
We went to the Supreme Court.
And what the Supreme Court still found fault with the IEBC's process of transmission of results.
By the way, Eric, I disagree with Supreme Court 100%. Yeah, I believe that Uhuru Kenyatta won the elections free and fair. Supreme Court got it wrong when it comes to the conclusions they made. For example, you remember there was a question that was posed to one of the lawyers of Jubilee then, and was asked, I think it was Mr. Macharia, Tom, then was asked, do you want to say that people went to a polling station, voted for a president in particular polling station, and never voted for the other
anybody
seats?
Else.
Instead of saying yes, he fumbled. Yeah, and understandably, because maybe it was just put on him. It was he wasn't sure. But it's true that people can go to a polling station and vote for one or two seats and go. In fact, it is possible for me to just walk to a polling station and say, I don't care about who becomes MCA. I don't care about who runs Nairobi County. I came here to vote for the president. I'm voting for Mr. X.
And such a vote would be accepted.
And that's now
what happens?
The argument for
what do you tell the polling clerks, because they'll give you the 6 ballots
and they expect you to fill them all,
and you go with them to that caboose.
In that case, it can be a spoiled vote. It easily becomes a spoiled vote, or it's possible that the person says, I'm not interested in getting this, and I just want it for the MP, and then that's it. Although by law, but not by law, by operation of the regulation, when you go to the polling station, you are first given all the ballot
all
papers,
the 6 before you go to the booth.
Before you go to polling booth. That discussion now led to all this confusion about which is the exact results, verification manually. In essence, the amendment of Section 39, in summary, is just trying to say the authentic results that should be declared by IBC are the results as received, as the manual paper as received from the returning officer, presiding officer, and then returning officer from the constituency for all the polling stations in the country. That comes to about, how many? Is it 300,000? Polling stations, or an estimate of 300. Yeah.
It's 40,000. The argument that
39,000. Sorry, 39,000 polling stations. Yeah, sorry, not 300.
The point you make is a valid one.
Yeah.
It is possible for someone to actually walk into a polling station and just vote for one person.
Correct.
But in the numbers that were indicated,
2
million.
No, it wasn't 2 million. It was 2 million. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't 2 million. It wasn't 2 million. The discrepancy, remember, it was a collected, you have to say, how many people voted for governor? You now do you collate all of them, including the spoiled votes for governor, and then now compare with the total votes who voted for the president. I don't remember what exactly the number was. I need to check
less than
again.
that, yeah.
But it was a small figure. But nevertheless, there was a discrepancy. The question was the IBC, I mean the Supreme Court, and you can understand what the judges was trying to say is that they wanted to know whether this result is very viable. It is authentic and very viable. Very viable.
You see, the discrepancy you say is also true.
Yeah.
But the discrepancy wasn't just with IEBC. Correct. The discrepancy was with ILOG and other monitoring bodies, and there was no unified figure that was given.
Correct.
But it kept being branded.
Yes.
I am not saying that I agree or disagree. I'm simply saying that the point you make is a valid one, but in its validity, the numbers made it questionable.
Yeah.
It provided an opportunity to say, surely,
Correct.
how do you justify this?
Yeah.
That really is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And yet the law at that point, you can correct me, Senator,
Yeah.
the law as you had amended it in 2016
Correct.
was saying that the result is what has been sent electronically.
Correct.
That we shall not recognize the physical form.
Yeah. No, not really. By the way, that law doesn't say you cannot recognize the physical form.
But you don't have to.
You don't have to. Yeah.
Okay.
When the electronic transmitted results can suffice. Yeah. You don't have to wait for what do you call the physical forms. Now, what is going to happen if this law is going to be amended is that the commission will have to wait. The returning officer, the constituency, will have to wait for all the physical forms. Okay.
From each polling station. And this is
then,
the various classrooms in
correct,
various schools.
Schools and streams in those schools,
Yes.
you know. And then at the national level, the commission now has to wait for 290 forms from the various constituencies. Now, there's a danger with that reverting back to the manual. But I'm not saying that this danger is only going to affect us. Yeah, we're just saying as a country, you want to have the right to be able to broadcast results from the polling station electronically to the center, as it used to be, to IBC, to National Telling Center, and give now the public the access to that information. Then the public can have actual direct verification and public participation. If my polling station is called Kakimiti Primary School in Embobut, I will sit in Nairobi and see, okay, the results from my polling station are there. Oh, they are nice. This is correct results. If it's not, I would be asking my agents on the ground that why these results not. And then, because election petition is a very short period of time, we can start collecting the evidence and all that for challenging.
Senator, even because
I am glad. Before you ask me, I'm glad that there's a meeting of minds on both sides of the political divide. I mean, ourselves, Jubilee or Azimio, which is ODM anyway, having swallowed Jubilee. I'm glad that all of them now agree that this law must be relooked at and relooked at jointly. Even though they are disowning. I don't think disowning was going to help the situation because the majority leader is a majority leader of a party that is in government at the moment. There's no point of disowning. It's just to say, yes, there seems to be some errors in this amendment of Section 39. Let's sit together.
Let's look at it.
In fact, I focus so much on Section 39. If you go back to Section, I'm forgetting which section was that, of the amendment, Section 20, sorry, just give me 1 minute, I confirm. It is this section that deals with the
nomination versus
Section 7. Section 7 of the Act is being amended to say a voter may not transfer his or her registration unless on the date of the application to transfer the registration, the voter has been A, ordinary resident, B, carrying on business, 3, employed, 4, possess land or residential building in the constituency where it's transferring to.
Let's talk about that after you take this break, because that's actually an issue that has already been a bone of contention with the current registration exercise. 23 minutes after 8, this is Kenya's biggest conversation. We have with us Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, the Senator for Elgeyo-Marakwet County. We are talking about the bills that are before Parliament. Right now, it's the Elections Amendment Bill. We had previously just had the Political Parties Bill. As we head towards the general election, what is it that we are seeing Parliament being so busy doing? And what are the games? what's the game at hand. 24 after 8. We'll be back shortly on KTN Home, SpiceFM, and online.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This nation has never healed genuinely from the 2008 violence. We've never had a healing process. We've swept it under the rug.
Let me tell you, the handshake was the most disastrous political event in the history of country after the coup attempt of 1982.
There's no Kikuyu pothole, or lack of water, or Kamba, lack
of
traffic.
Yeah.
There is no Luya lack of drugs in the hospitals. Or Jaluo one. All our issues are the same issues.
If you are in a room and just about everybody in that room has a court case or another, what impression does that give you?
What are you saying? Why haven't you done it in the last 20 years? But they're telling us, like August, some miracle is going to happen. My friend, I want to tell Kenyans you'll be in for a rude shock.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The sun's coming out through those clouds, highs of 25 and lows of 16 today in Nairobi. At 16 degrees, Nakuru is mostly sunny. We'll see highs of 27. 26 will be the high in Nyeri, where it's mostly sunny at 14. And 13 in Eldoret, highs of 24 and lows of 12. It's sunny in Mombasa at 27, highs of 32 and lows of 25. And we're looking at sunny conditions at 26 in Malindi, highs of 31 and lows of 26. It's raining in Kisumu now in some parts at 21, highs of 26 and lows of 18. And we'll see foggy conditions in Kakamega at 21, highs of 27 and lows of 16. Out in Kampala, it's cloudy at 20, highs of 26 and lows of 20. While mostly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam at 24. We'll go to highs of 31. Lagos continues to be foggy at 25, highs of 33. And we'll see highs of 24 in Johannesburg, currently sunny at 14. It's sunny at 24 in Kinshasa. We'll go to highs of 33 and lows of 23.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them.
I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refuse to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani maternity hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it up.
own money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he was cleaning. He cleaned it.
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric.
Okay.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Still piling up on Langata Road and Gong Road, and then moving further on to Valley Road this morning, trying to get into the city. City is jam-packed today, going out from Uhuru Highway all the way through to Westlands. We're looking at Jogo Road traffic as well. That whole industrial area, quite some traffic this morning. All right, we're looking at the Likoni interchange, then onto the southern bypass on Mombasa Road, and that has slowed down some. Look, guys, the traffic coming off of Mombasa Road further ahead around the SGR is very, very slow this morning. All sorts of diversions. It's a jungle of cement. Try to traverse it without too much of an issue today. Coming off of the Thika Superhighways, where we see a lot of traffic as well. We're looking at Juja Road doing quite the thing, as well as Kangunda Road in certain parts of the city, then trying to connect with the outer ring. All right. Shall we kick back in about half an hour and see what it looks like? For now, it's manageable, but it gets crazy in some parts. Talk to us. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Conversation continues 29 minutes after 8. This is a Situation Room live on KTN Home, on SpiceFM and online. Our guest this morning is Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. We are talking about the politics as we head towards the 2022 general election. Ndu, you had a question, then you can also now add on to the issue of the voter registration.
I mean, I think even as you're looking at this from a Senate point of view, right, and then looking at it to be able to argue it also from a legal point of view, I think it's very important to look at the reasoning behind this. Because I'm hoping that it was not just something pulled out of a hat and said, well, let's just do this. Why do you think that to what many people have called regress to having actual humans having to carry results to the national center? Why do you think that they would make that decision to include it in an amendment bill?
I wanted to read two things only. One was let me go back to electronic transmission. If you look at Section 39 as it is at the moment, 39(1)(f), it says, G, sorry, not FG. The Commission shall, to facilitate public information, establish a mechanism for the live streaming of results as announced at polling station, and the results so streamed shall be for purpose of public information and shall not be the basis for declaration by the Commission. But access to that information and people, it's not like the Commission will sit here and say, okay, for what has been announced there, that is the results. No, the Commission now will do their verification based on the other clauses of the Act.
Okay.
But if you come to the amendment, this amendment, it's deleting that provision. And that's why, that provision was to take care of live transmission of results from every polling station. It was to give room to also independent observers, media houses, and so forth, to give their exit results, like it is done all over the world. That in our, we are so and so media house. SpiceFM calls the results for so and so based on the following collation. But this is the information we'll have to wait for official announcement of results. We all saw what was happening in the United States. Despite media houses calling the results, they still waited for the legal procedures and the final results. That is our democracy. That's how we've grown. But because there's transparency, and SpiceFM is doing that, YFM is doing that, Murkomen FM is doing that, everybody is able to follow different media houses and media stations on the kind of the results. Why someone would like to take away such a provision, which has helped our country and Kenyans to follow results and ease tensions? You remember what happened in the Kivuitu days? We were all in darkness.
We don't know what has been declared.
Don't know what has been happening. We don't even know who is this returning officer in Molo.
Yes.
We don't even know this returning officer from Tarakaniti. Who is he?
Some new guy can just come out.
And then we are being told, he's lost. We can't get him. Now we have advanced from 2007 to 2008. We have advanced in terms of technology, access to information. Media space has also widened. We shouldn't be able to go back. Look at the law that I read earlier, so that I discussed both of them in Section 7. Someone says you have to own a hat. That's a colonial, is a colonial mentality that for you to vote in a particular constituency in Kenya, you must be owning a property there. You must have some hat somewhere there. You must have some business. You must have stayed there for a certain period of time. All those restrictions are unconstitutional because the Constitution gives every Kenyan. In fact, this nuance is actually dangerous. If I was to voice it, if I was to stand somewhere and say, kama una shamba hapa usiwezi kupaliwa kupiga kura hapa, I will be arrested for hate speech. If I stood somewhere and said, if you don't have business in this county, we are not going to accept people who came the other day. We are not going to accept foreigners. And I say foreigners, I'll be arrested immediately. But that law, this law by Kimunya, is hate speech by itself. Is actually saying zoning Kenyans and zoning Kenya to a particular, you say you must have come from here. For example, students have been admitted to University of Nairobi in the month of July. They come from all over the country. Or in the month of March. They believe that they will be around Nairobi in August when they are going to vote. Or they feel like being in Nairobi now, they will study and live in Nairobi. And they just came the other day. They want to vote for the governor of Nairobi and so forth. They are about 30,000. Someone starts saying, 30,000 being migrated at once to come and vote in Nairobi. We are not going to accept that. You must show that you have lived here long, you have a heart here, you have business. This is nonsense.
So go to
This is retrogressive.
Ndu's question. Why would the IEBC, because now IEBC has owned up and said this is these are all amendments that have been proposed by us. Why would the IEBC be doing this?
Either that because IEBC has owned but never given the details of which parts of the bill they own. So if they own the bill in total, then they are putting themselves in even more trouble, because it means then they have been infiltrated. IEBC has been infiltrated by forces that want to compromise the elections. But if it's not IEBC, I strongly believe that there are people who are sitting somewhere. You first of all, don't read this election amendment law separately, and then you read the political parties' amendment differently. No, they are one. In fact, some of the provisions here are validating the amendments in the Political Parties Act because they are cross-referencing.
Like which ones?
There's a number of them, and it's been including, although they are not, these ones are not fatal, things to do with definition of what is a nomination and what's a registration. For example, I'm not saying that they are serious, but they move together. They complement each other. And also, if you look at the law on coalition political parties, which is a new concept, now they have aligned it here. They have allowed coalition political party, the time it will be registered, they will have 14 days to be able to present their nomination rules, meaning, and that was one of our arguments, that you disadvantage the other political parties, because if you will have something called coalition political parties, it means that it's a political party that should enjoy similar and same rights with other political parties that are not called coalition political parties. Now you're going to open the window for this other new party to present their results. There are a number of things that we argued on the Political Parties Amendment Bill, which is now Political Parties Act, which basically we believe they are unconstitutional, which are also being amended here, including the question of the register that's going to be used for nomination, because the register here is being so closed. There is a particular management of political parties' freedom to use mechanisms for nominating their candidates that they will wish to do. So we are constricting the political space and the democratic space that is enjoyed by political parties. All these laws are targeted in assisting, in our honest view. Unless evidence is presented otherwise, we believe that all these amendments are being targeted to assist the government project, to be able to win the next elections.
How would that work? Because I hear you saying you smell a rat. But how exactly would it work? It would
to their advantage and to your disadvantage.
Well, and to someone else's disadvantage. It seems disadvantageous to anybody who would have to sit and depend on human intervention for the results, because we're being told that it must count as part of the total result, right? How would that advantage one over another?
You see, anything that presents some level of darkness gives advantage to the person who has greater power. And state power in terms of control of security, control of transmission, control of internet, control of technology. It's possible for you to frustrate the whole transmission mechanism by just interfering with the internet across the country. One of the arguments that was given, and I've heard people say that, not all the polling stations across the country have access to 3G, or which is the minimum technology that we need to be able to transmit. And that argument can be even extended further to say that we had to do this because the internet failed. And we know that in the past, even up to now, the state has control insofar as that technology is concerned. They can decide that all of Elgeyo Marakwet will not have 3G. For 2 days during the election period. What does that lead to? That people resort to manual
identification,
and then manual processes, and then people start. You will have forms. Do you know that the election, even with this system, as it is, having been improved as after 2016 elections, do you know that there are election petitions that were nullified based on interference on the form itself from a polling station? Just imagine an unpopular government project that is being assisted, and you want to frustrate as many polling stations as possible in the results, you are capable of doing that in darkness because there is no accountability. And let me tell you something. It's one thing to be told that, okay, if that happens, you have a right to petition to the Supreme Court.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes, I have a right to petition the Supreme Court, but why do we have to wait until that level of going to the Supreme Court?
Why must we go to the Supreme Court?
Exactly. And suppose the evidence is, suppose these characters walk back, yeah, piecing together the evidence, and then they are able to convince the judges that everything is in order. Many people will have been disenfranchised. Voters will be disenfranchised.
But I see another side to this, Senator. Just the same way you've described. So one day, your local primary school in Nembobut and others in Elgeyo Marakwet, there's an issue and they're not able to transmit. In fact, in the last election, if I remember the petition documents, some 1,600 or so polling stations were not able to transmit their results because of whatever technological issues they had. Now, this is what led to the branding of Vifaranga via computer.
Yes.
Because everything had to be transmitted electronically.
Correct.
IEBC had to rely on what it's receiving electronically.
Yes.
And they had to announce the results
based on
comparing
the electronic with the manual.
But they didn't have time to actually.
Correct.
They were not requiring the returning officers from the 290 constituencies to come.
Correct.
They declared Uhuru Kenyatta the winner.
Yeah.
Based on the forms that they had received and looking at the forms and saying this one looks okay, legitimate.
Correct.
Now, here is another layer that's saying you can look at this form. If you find there's a question with the form that has come from this particular constituency in Elgeyo Marakwet, wait for the physical one, look at it and compare. And then you declare.
Correct.
Isn't that a safeguard that is
that is the law.
A good thing?
That is the law as it is now. That is the law. By the way, IBC had the responsibility by law. The law as it is at the moment is that you can compare the electronic or the transmitted with the manual results. Yeah, you can compare, but you cannot tell people that you only rely on manual results because the manual one can be the one being interfered with.
Okay.
Yeah.
But does it give, the current law does not give IEBC the option of saying, if I have not received the electronic, I will rely on manual?
Well, it is discretion. It is their discretion. They can say, we have received the results, it was transmitted electronically, we are good. Yeah, But they can say also, we are not, there is an objection insofar as these results is concerned. We are waiting for the physical results.
So what is the amendment seeking to do then if it's already in law?
There's amendment seeking to say that the electronic transmission is not valid. Yeah, and the live transmission is deleted. For whatever reasons they want to give, I don't know. So that then once you remove live transmission and electronic is not necessarily valid, then you remain with the manual process. Then we go back to the old manual process.
So essentially, you will have a system that cannot be validated by another.
Yes, exactly. So you have, the only results you have here is manual. You don't have to wait for the electronic one, you know. And that's why it's being disowned. Because people can see the mischief, okay? Everybody is realizing, okay, one, why do you stop live stream? Live streaming of results. Yeah, why don't you allow?
So the problem that caused?
In terms of?
We're talking about the election in 2008.
Oh, correct. Why would you create darkness?
Yep.
That alone, by the way, is enough. Yeah, it's enough to
bring
back. a lot of problems. We don't want Krigla back. I really hope that we will not have a situation where we will have Krigla back.
So, Senator, what's likely to happen now? Okay, the bill is in Parliament. Yeah. It has been disowned by everybody apart from Amos Kimunya.
Yeah,
he's been left with the baby alone. What's likely to happen?
I think of all those people who have disowned that law, the only honest person there is Amos Kimunya. And a honest person because that is what was agreed and was transmitted to him by the Attorney General. Whether it came from IBC or not, that is another discussion. I believe that because of the issues we've raised, Kenyans should continue being vigilant. It is now going to go to second reading, and we will have, before the second reading, there is public participation. All these views that have been raised by Kenyans, including all the political parties, will be put on the table. I believe and I hope that if common sense will prevail, we are going to have an open and honest conversation that will lead to amendments that will make the law viable and achieve the objective that IBC may have been intending without taking Kenyans back to retrogressive years of darkness.
And is the leadership that you are under, the UDA leadership and the others, is there room to push for a vehicle such as the one that you used in 2016? To say, let's actually just stop this. Yeah. Let's form a joint committee that brings in all members and let's discuss.
I don't think we need a joint committee. You see, these UDA are part and parcel of the bigger family of Jubilee. So actually, the 80% of Jubilee is UDA. I mean, 80% of UDA is Jubilee, and 80% of Jubilee is UDA. It's both ways, yeah? What needs to prevail is common sense. You don't even need to form a committee. It's just that you need to build consensus in the House by saying we need members that represent various political factions now going forward to just sit together within the House during amendments and accept this common sense that this is where we need to go. You remember, let's go back. Kriegler told us that you should not interfere with the election laws 2 years before elections. He told us that this level of predictability is necessary for purpose of ensuring that there is no credibility there is a credibility in the elections, and therefore no suspicion that those who are sponsoring amendments of laws are the ones who are going to have advantage in the elections. Granted, and I was there, our committee was part of the laws that did not meet the 2 years. Okay, so we amended the law less than 2 years before elections, including even we formed the commission, new commissioners less than a year before elections and so forth. But that was done with consensus, not being pushed by one side of the political divide. Even after that, I still think it was wrong for us to push for certain amendments for IBC law, which amended this section 44 actually to create complementary system. They say there must be a complementary system of transmission of the election and transmission of the results. That was so close to the elections. Now that we are wiser, and now that we must do these amendments, and notwithstanding what Kriegler told us that 2 years, we should not amend law 2 years, let's do it via consensus, because it's not going to affect me alone. It will affect everybody equally. Sure. I told you, Eric, earlier off the mic that I totally believe in the system that was in place that led to the 2017 elections, and the manner in which IBC conducted himself around that period of time. And for all that whole period, this biometric identification, this transmission of results electronically, this verification of results, live transmission of results, and allowing Kenyans to be able to view all these results. I believe with that kind of system, today, it doesn't matter that President Uhuru Kenyatta has a project against our candidate. I believe that it will be impossible to steal elections.
So why then?
And therefore, we shouldn't introduce systems and mechanisms that will create suspicion.
I have to ask you something.
So the current system works for you?
So not just for me. I think it works for the country. And I'm saying this because we are now at a disadvantaged position. You can say we are outside government. Okay, the government itself, the president has his own project that he wants to push in the elections. For us, even with the president being on that side of the project, and even today sitting there, I hear they are trying to interfere with the appointment of the IBC CEO, which probably they are going to say, okay, give to this partner of mine, and it will come out today or the other day. Even with putting Oburu Odinga to be the CEO, as DP said one day, of IBC, as long as the system is verifiable and it is electronic and Kenyans have access to the viewership, I have no doubt in my mind that IBC will still deliver credible results.
Ndu will ask you a question, but I just want to comment and say, The system that's there in place
Yeah.
is the one that you passed in 2016.
Correct.
It's the one that was called Vifaranga vya computer by your opponents.
And those opponents, and by the way, and those opponents are now extremely happy with that system. They even want to make it less stringent now.
Are you still happy with the system, number one? Are you still okay with the system? And then can we then talk about the true or not independence of the IEBC? Because it would seem as though that there's a manipulatory hand that's being played here to say that, all right, well, let's manipulate things to our own advantage and use this to our own advantage. Do you really think that the IEBC is independent, and can it be?
So far, let me just say this. So far, I believe that IBC is one of the few, if not the only, independent institutions that are still exercising a high level of independence. If you look at the elections we had, the by-elections we've had, there's a number of them we lost, a number we won. Still, I believe that IBC delivered credible results. I believe that even though Chebukati looks very quiet, it looks he's not vibrant, he's a person who doesn't talk a lot, he has demonstrated that he can exercise a very high level of independence. And I'm saying this knowing that some results have gone against us and some have gone in our advantage. I'm saying this knowing that there was a time we were in government, and we are actually the de facto opposition at the moment, because we have been chased out of government. Even with us being out of government, I still believe that IBC still retains a high level of independence. There are commissioners who are hired recently. You remember the state has more. The president had more say in terms of appointing 4 of the commissioners out of 7, and even of the 4 of those commissioners, we are told there was a consensus between the handshake brothers to share among themselves the commissioners. But for as long as they follow the law as it is, and the system of IBC as it works, I still believe that the results are going to be credible, that the independence of IBC is going to be achieved. There may be some of these new people who are coming in feeling that they have a role to deliver certain kind of results. But I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that for as long as the system is not interfered with, they will have a very little room for manipulating the results. You know why? Because the participation of the agents at the polling station is so key, and citizens, and the openness of the system for one to access from anywhere. From here, it's IBC which will access the system, but give agents of the parties at the national level, telling them, you see, these are the results we've received from this polling station. This polling station has closed. This polling station has closed. That kind of transparency makes it very difficult for any citizen of this republic to be able to steal. And the punishment in 2016 in the law, we put a very heavy punishment of up to 5 years of being sentenced to up to 5 years if you are going to participate in stealing elections. Meaning that even if you are an IBC official for that period of the elections, the consequences of the things you're going to do. And that gives us a lot of confidence in IBC. Many of our supporters keep asking us, we'll vote for you. You are the most popular now. But they have told us the deep state and the system is going to steal the elections. And we've told them there is no place that the deep state and the system had the time, the luxury, the resources, the energy, the wherewithal to beat us than Kiamba. But they did everything. Eventually, the IBC looked at the figures, looked at the process of election, and declared the results. If it was the Kivuitu days, or if there was this dark kind of a system, I can tell you, because we know what was happening in the tallying center in Kiambu. There are people, including the governor who was covered on TV, coming there and saying, no, we don't want so-and-so to be declared, the other person should be declared. We don't want Wanjiku to be declared, his opponent be declared. But that did not succeed, because IBC is saying, we'll only declare that which we have received. We have no power. But if it was those dark days, you would switch off the lights. At that point, even the returning officer at the polling station knows that he's being monitored. He's being monitored through the system by the commission there, and he was going to carry his own cross. And no matter how much you love the other side of the political divide, you know that this system is too transparent for you to be able to play monkey games.
We want to take a break and say goodbye to the audience on KTN Home. But before we do that, let everybody hear this. Your candidate, William Ruto, has been asking the opposition candidate, Raila Odinga, ukishindwa kubali. Is William Ruto prepared to accept the result of this election?
He has, the William Ruto and all of us who work with him and who support him have said publicly over and over again, including myself, that once IBC declares the results for X, and it's not us, we will support that person and support the democracy of this country.
Unconditionally.
Unconditionally. There has been, of course, there is only one constitutional condition, that if you are dissatisfied, you go to the Supreme Court. And when it ends, whatever the verdict the Supreme Court is going to make, you live by it. We take that position because we believe that part of the reasons why this country degenerated to the level it reached is for people who want to win by all means. Yeah, you know, the saying that it is either us or nobody else. That, you know, the type of persons who say that we eat this food together, or I bring down the whole table and nobody will be able to eat. So
let's take a break.
We want, I just say this, we want that level of assurance from a former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga, because he is the constant factor in rejecting elections. No other person has ever done what he did. Not even Kibaki when he lost to Moi. Not even Matiba when he lost to Moi. So we want that assurance if we have to move our democracy forward.
Time for us to take a break on KTN Home. We've been live on the TV for the last 1 hour. The conversations continue on SpiceFM around the country. 94.4 Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, Eldoret is 96.7, Nyeri 90.9 and Malindi 97.7. We are also live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. SpiceFM KE.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
City, you wanted to ask the senator a question?
Yes, I did. There's something he's mentioned repeatedly and referred to the other presidential candidate, but Raila Odinga has a project. Senator, what do you mean?
We are saying, first of all, project in simple terms is to say that he's
preferred candidate.
Not just preferred candidate, he is an investment of the outgoing president and the government officials as they are at the moment. And this is not coming from us. It comes from Raila Odinga and his supporters. You remember that many of his supporters, including Junaid Mohammed, including Oburu Odinga, said in 2018, after the handshake, that we have been losing elections because we don't have the deep state and we don't have the system. Now with the system, we are able to get the elections. President Uhuru Kenyatta told us handshake was just about bringing Kenya together. It was nothing to do with supporting Raila Odinga. But we were able to read through, you know, all this was a game that was being played to ensure that eventually the president was going to have a hand in dictating to us that this is the candidate that's going to elect. In fact, all the BBI process was nothing but a mechanism for the president to succeed himself, because this was the game. You increase constitution.
That was your interpretation of it.
Not that. It's now apparently very clear because the president has come out to say, I want to support Raila Odinga, but he must give me a deputy president, which has been properly interpreted. He must give me nusu mkate.
Is he the only one? There's so many people today who are joining coalitions and they're saying that, you know, we expect that we will get 50% of this, 50% of this if we will be in government tomorrow.
I am
is
saying
he the only one who's saying
he's
that?
not,
And
he's
why
not
would
the
it
only one, but
appear
the only unique thing about this is that you have an outgoing president, yeah, who is in office at the moment, investing state resources, and his time and resource also as individual to ensure that a certain candidate wins with an expectation of perpetuating his reign beyond.
But is it new in this country, Senator?
It's not new. It has happened before. But it's not what was expected
by whom?
By the people of Kenya.
We make it sound as though this is the first time that Raila Odinga has declared that he wants to be president of the country.
Yeah.
Why is it now that because you have an outgoing president that then he's being called a project? It is not the first time he said he wanted to be president of the country.
This is the first time that Raila Odinga is a state project. Yeah.
So are we saying, therefore, that when we talked about Kumi Yangu, Kumi Yako, at that particular point, if the Kumi had continued, the deputy president would have been a state project?
It would not have been a state project because it was the state himself. You see, you must see the difference here is that he was part of that government and part of that political party. It would have been natural all over the world. It would have been natural for the president to support someone in his political party to say so and so, and based on the
job that we've started,
that started to get, not even just the job, the fact that is my party. He would have either supported openly or decided to do what Kibaki did. Sit back and allow the person who had worked with him to succeed.
Senator,
we need to.
No, I mean in a subtle manner. He
didn't come out openly
exactly
with a project.
to campaign for a project. No, we need to complete the question because as it was asked
in 15 seconds.
Yes, exactly. So I'm saying all indicators show that Raila Odinga now is the preferred government project, not just for the president, but the whole state machinery, just like Uhuru happened in 2002, the whole state project is being mobilized by the state to ensure that Raila Odinga becomes the president. The good results is this is not the first time in Kenya. This is not the first time in Kenya.
It's time.
Yeah.
A very good morning to you. It's 9 a.m. Senator Kipchumba Murkomen has been our guest.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Morning, this is Newswire. President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to attend an international conference on harmonizing the training curriculum for health professionals after the COVID-19 pandemic. The 3-day conference, which aims to redefine health strategies for future, dubbed Repositioning Today's Health Workforce for the Future, will be attended by health professionals from approximately 24 foreign countries. The discussion will focus on how the global health sector can excel in medical technology in line with emerging global trends. Also to be discussed is the strengthening of the implementation of the universal healthcare, which focuses on the pillars of providing quality healthcare to Kenyans. This as President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to launch the UHC program at the Port Reitz Hospital, Changaon in Mombasa County. A few days before the case against attorney Paul Gisheru kicks off at the ICC, reports now indicate that the court is facing a challenge of witnesses not cooperating fully, hence affecting the case. The hearing of the matter against Gisheru on witness interference in the case against Deputy President William Ruto and journalist Joshua Arabsan will begin on the 15th of this month before Judge Miata Maria Samba with prosecutors James Stewart and Anton Steinberg. With the 5-day trial expected to begin, it has been revealed that 4 key witnesses in the case have withdrawn themselves. The move forced the prosecution to compel one of the witnesses to appear in court to testify. The Housing and Urban Development Principal Secretary Charles Inga has expressed hope that Phase 3 of the Kazintani initiative may kick off in March. Inga said that youth who had registered for the National Hygiene Program that there is light at the end of the tunnel after the National Treasury submitted a supplementary budget for consideration and approval by Parliament. The third phase, which is expected to run until June 2022, will be implemented in over 900 informal settlements across all counties to support malaria control efforts and stalled construction projects across the country. And Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has denied allegations that the One Kenya Alliance has imposed several conditions before joining the Azimio la Umoja movement. Speaking in Nairobi's Huruma Estate, Kalonzo reiterated that Oka coalition has become so large that other alliances should join them. Oka Alliance has new members Martha Karua and Cyrus Jirongo after the departure of Mudavadi and Wetangula. And about 100 Jubilee MPs who are now affiliated to the UDA party are expected to officially announce their resignation from the party this week. According to Kimilili MP Didmas Baraza, the MPs want to live together by tomorrow, the 8th. According to lawmakers, they are aiming to resign at a time when it is impossible for the by-elections to be held legally. Starting tomorrow, the politics leading up to the August 9th election are expected to take a new twist after the resignation period expires and the parties begin to prepare a list of members to submit to the registrar of political parties. The Communications Authority of Kenya has welcomed the announcement by the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, on the classification of infrastructure in the telecommunications sector and other key sectors in the economy as critical infrastructure. In a statement, Communications Authority of Kenya Director General Ezra Chiloba noted that in the telecommunications sector, the infrastructure that has been declared critical spans across data and voice communication, internet connectivity, domain and internet protocol management, as well as data and information management. CA says for the last 4 years, about 25 masts have been destroyed, mostly in northern Kenya, costing over 200 million shillings in repair and restoration of services. 12 of the destroyed masts were in Mandera County, while others were in Garissa and Wajir counties. And the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority has warned unregistered operators against illegal flying of drones amid surge in use, especially in political rallies. KCAA Director General Gilbert Kibe has said the use of unmanned aircraft systems, also known as drone, is expected to increase significantly in coming years, backed by rising demand for data collection, research, environmental conservation, especially around the lake basin and other natural resources such as forest survey and mapping, as well as academic research. In recent years, use of Category A drones, which are deemed low risk, and Category B, which are medium risk, have been on the rise, especially in political rallies, where the urge to showcase mammoth attendance for optics has skyrocketed. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM.
So continues traffic hour this Monday morning. Jogo Road is doing its thing, guys. Quite heavy, and that has not let up, at least not since 6 a.m. when we saw this traffic had already started. Langata Road also another pain in the neck today. And Gong Road as well as Lunga Lunga. Now, Lunga Lunga specifically today, in and outbound traffic, and it's moving very, very slowly. It's going to spill over to Likoni onto the interchange of Mombasa Road, and that's going to take some time then getting off onto the southern bypass. It's looking a little bit better on the Thika Superhighway today. Traffic just past Survey and also Kiambu Road in and out dissipating. It's not too bad, as well as Limuru Road, that whole Westland situation getting a little bit better as we look at it a few minutes after 9 o'clock. Hopefully by 9:30 we should be out of the woods, but we'll keep an eye on things. Help us out here as well. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It is 7 minutes after 9. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. This is the final hour of the show this morning. And CT has the day's proverb.
Anayejitia lisilomhusu upata lisilomridhi. Don't poke your nose in other people's business.
Anayejitia lisilomhusu hupata lisilomridhi.
Yes.
I see you.
Eh?
Rithi.
You're wondering about the Rithi, Rhythm, Jitia, Lisilalamuhu. That's the one. That's the one. It's like that word that she used. Can you repeat that word?
Manipulatory. Manipulatory.
In fact, you added really Lee.
To me, I like
Manipulatory.
I like the sound of it. That's why I said, do that one. I said,
say it again.
Manipulatory.
Really. There are some people who are manipulative.
I mean, they are very manipulative.
Manipulating. Our conversation with Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, especially on the issue of the amendment to the election law. I guess with time, we need to get to a point where we look back at what we have agreed as a country, what we've agreed as a nation. This is what we shall do as standard practice. Shall we be amending election laws so close to an election? Shall we not? Does it require for it to be seriously like an emergent situation that says, okay, we are in an emergency here and the law does not provide for what we have. So then we have no option but to discuss and amend. But things that were known since 2017 are now being brought to Parliament in February of a year of the election year. They raise all these questions. And even if they were well-intentioned, they will raise questions. And that's why you have to ask yourself, so, well, the main part of this amendment could be well-meaning or well-intentioned, but maybe something else has also been snuck into it. Like we see with the omnibus bills of Parliament, where you have a miscellaneous amendment bill that is amending very many pieces of legislation at the same time.
Yes.
And
but not
the main
highlighting
ones,
all of them.
not highlighting everything. When it passes is when you hear, but this one was amended. This was amended. This was amended. You didn't get time to interrogate it. Similar kind of things. Anyway, the conclusion here of the conversation with Kipchumba was on what he and very many other people, especially in the UDA camp, have been trying to brand the opposition and saying this opposition, what's it called? What's it called? Azimio la Umoja. The Azimio la Umoja campaign is a project of the president and by extension, a project of the state. Now, it raises all these questions. What is a project? What are the telltale signs of what we'd call a state project?
I wouldn't even begin there. I would ask who is saying it. Because when politicians speak, you, beyond listen to what they're not saying, you must understand political speak. Remember the number of times, depending on the political divide somebody's in, people make pronouncements. Eric, you pointed out about the vifaranga via computer and the issue that arose at a certain point in time about the computer. The toing and froing that politicians treat us to. On the one hand, when they are opposing a certain view because they're in a certain position, they say one thing. Not very long after that, when certain things change and they're in a certain position, they say the complete opposite. And you wonder, where does this person stand? I would start from there. If you have a situation where you have a president and the deputy, and bright and early in their political life, they start telling you about, I am going to be president for 10 years. And the following 10 years, my deputy will be president. What are you saying? That this is a country where elections aren't held? People don't vote for the person they choose? You've already determined. That pronouncement in itself, if you are talking about project, that, my friend, was the announcement of a project, if ever there was one. But again, politicians being politicians, it changed. But you ask that question, you say, no, it wasn't a project. Because they were in the same party. Now, does that argument then follow if you say these people are in the same coalition? They may not be in the same party, but they seem to have aligned themselves in the same direction. So, which is it? Was that a project or not? Was this a project? So, and why do you refer to coalition?
Why are we talking as if a project is a bad thing?
It is because it is intended to sound like a bad thing. If it doesn't favor you, it can't be a good thing, can it?
Of course it can't.
Yes.
But the point is it a project or is it not? Good or bad? That's why I was starting with what are the telltale signs. Because you see, at the end of the day, whether it is a right thing or it's a wrong thing, is it a state project or is it not? If we just to remove all the politics aside and look at it objectively, is it state or is it not state? When the president is seeking re-election, he is a state project. He's using state resources and everything at his disposal, in some cases to his advantage. In some cases, not overtly, but in some cases, he uses that to his advantage, right? When he's seeking re-election.
Eric, so you're saying that the use of state resources is what makes one a state project?
Yes.
Then
if state resources are dedicated towards one particular candidate, and you can see there's a dedication of state resources, state machinery, state communication, state officers to support one particular side, it's a state project. We saw that in 2002. Was Uhuru Kenyatta a state project or not?
He was President Moi's preferred candidate.
Yes.
And the myth that when the state supports you, you will win 100% was debunked then, was it not?
It was.
I think also the connotation that state project gives is that this individual is being molded, this individual is being prepped and propped up to continue to carry on tenets of the particular administration, and that this individual, as it were, doesn't really have a mind or thinking of their own.
Or the capacity to win on their own.
No. And that previously they may not even have put up themselves for this particular position, that this is essentially a puppet that we want to bring to do what we would want to do. That is what also the connotation that it bears when you say that.
Oh, it's implied heavily.
Absolutely. So
you're beholden to your sponsors.
And that you will forever be beholden to them.
Yeah.
And that you will then serve as a puppet, and they are the ones who will pull the strings.
Yes.
I mean, and the thing, it also then gives, like, you can't think for yourself. You would not be able to win on your own. You do not hold any kind of persuasion then when it comes to the politics of the country. Those are the things then that are...
And it's not just Kenya. I mean, we see it. When we saw the election in the DRC and Kabila was leaving office, he had his preferred successor. All right? Did Kabila dedicate some of the state resources towards that successor? Yes, he did. What did we see happen even afterwards? Even though the opposition guy won and Kabila had some say in parliament, what were we seeing? Kabila was still trying to pull strings. That's the whole point of, having a preferred successor and dedicating your resources into it. It's because you want to have a say in how that administration is run. Even in other jurisdictions where George Bush is leaving office and he has a preferred successor, or W. Bush is leaving office, or Obama is leaving office, and they're going out and campaigning, we basically know that the party, the Democratic Party, will want to have a say and on how this administration runs.
If the word project, with reference to the political situation here in Kenya, didn't have all the negative connotations,
then okay.
which heavily implies a disabled person who needs assistance at every move and is incapable of functioning on their own.
As he has proven before.
As not entirely.
As not who has proven before?
I'm heading there.
Okay, please.
I'm just disagreeing with him first and saying
please,
not entirely. And then going to ask him, like when, for instance?
I don't know.
You see,
when Oburu Odinga says we have failed before, but this time we have the state behind us, that's what I mean.
And I'm saying that's a politician speaking.
Yes.
And I'm saying when
a politician who's been here, who's been in the game. So yes. I'll listen to the words of the politician, basically, City. That's what I'm saying.
And I'm saying...
And if a politician is in the kitchen cabinet of a candidate, and he comes out and says, you know what?
Oburu is not in the kitchen cabinet.
So
Oburu is Raila Odinga's brother.
Yes.
So it goes even beyond kitchen. Okay? All I'm saying is this, I don't go by the pronouncements of politicians beyond saying this is a politician speaking and this is the interpretation of this situation. So let me broaden the discussion. Are we saying that every time you have a political candidate and the president of the day on their way out say this is my preferred candidate, that such a candidate is of necessity a government project? Is that what we're saying? And that the culture of this country...
No, you have to add. So first of all, you will say, yes, this is the outgoing president's project. So we'll start with that.
Preferred candidate as opposed to project.
Is the outgoing candidate's project. Now, looking at what work the outgoing candidate has done in propping this particular person. Now, if the outgoing leader, not just president, we'll even go to Germany and see Angela Merkel. If the outgoing leader then also uses some other extra resources to try and support this particular candidate, then their person becomes a wider project of either the leader, the political party, or where it's blatant state.
You see, we seem to have determined that the word preferred candidate is a bad word, and the word project here is the one that we must use every time somebody has a preferred candidate. We're talking
it's
about...
not bad. None of them is bad.
No,
in my application,
in this country,
in my application of it, and that's why I was using my application. In my application, it's the same. It's one and the same thing. Project, preferred, it becomes bad, in my opinion, when state resources are put behind that candidate.
For the longest time, when the deputy president was on his campaign trail, was using state resources.
Yes.
Does he still use state resources?
Yes.
Whose project is he?
His own.
With state resources?
As a state actor, yes.
You see, that's where I have difficulties. Because the term project, if it wasn't used in the Kenyan context, would make a lot of sense. Because really, if somebody is supporting you, then you could argue that you are part and parcel of something they want to do. But when you say project, it means the person whose project you are has full control. You have no say, and the understanding is that you will move in the direction that this particular person wants you to move.
Yes.
And
it's an extreme interpretation. But actually, you can take it to the extreme, yes, but not always to the extreme interpretation.
Actually.
But you as the candidate are not in full control. You are sharing control with your benefactor. That's the point.
I am saying that then let's extend the conversation. So when we have coalitions, who's
in control?
Do we introduce the word project into coalitions as well? Because since it's a Kenyan word that we like using, then who then becomes the person who is the puppet master? Because the word
the puppet master is
actually implies puppet master.
It's the one with power.
You see, my argument is this. A president has power, and his presidential power is bestowed on him by the Constitution. But in the case of someone like the Honorable Raila Odinga, he is not without power. He is not some helpless person who has not been able to make a stand on its own and take a stab at this very seat and make a mark.
Or even declare interest. Yes. Or even declare interest in on a previous occasion when he said, look, I want to be able to do this. It would, because if I were to look at something like that and say a project which was clearly determined from the very beginning with those who had power, is that, you pick somebody across, along the lines and say, we want to make sure that we put everything that we have, throw everything at it, plus the kitchen sink, and say, look, here is where we are throwing all our resources and everybody's going to come and support this individual. All right. An individual who has never even made a mark or an imprint on the political scene in the country, then perhaps. But we're talking about somebody who, for the longest time, if anything, has been a thorn in the flesh of anybody else who wanted to run for political office. So I would see it as a bit difficult to then say that now this individual then would be controlled.
Ndu.
Would be controlled by the powers that be at the moment.
I don't think project implies that you are picking a nondescript unknown. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. It can also be, just like we asked Kipchumba, it could also have been that William Ruto is the candidate, all right? Sitting deputy president, preferred successor of Uhuru Kenyatta's, right? And state resources being deployed. CS going and telling chiefs, you see, this is the direction that we are taking as a government. You see, this is the direction that we are taking. The president himself saying, but you see, you people, this is the direction that I'm taking. That, with William Ruto, who is not a small-time person, is the deputy president who has served 2 terms, would still have been the project.
The people who are supporting him, who have come up with this term, would not have termed him as a project.
Of course they wouldn't. But the other
That's what we're
side,
saying. The negative connotation
today,
is what
Raila
comes out here.
Odinga's supporters would be calling William Ruto Uhuru's project.
Connotation, which is what comes out here, is what then lends credence to when you say that it should not be used in that manner. That's why. If it was flipped, the same term would not be used.
And that's why I said, let's remove the politics of it, all right, and the politicians behind it, and let's look at it objectively. Is this a project or is it not? And I'm saying, if today it was William Ruto, if it was William Ruto today, and Raila Odinga is the one who was calling William Ruto project, would it not make him a project? No, it wouldn't. He would still be the project.
Yeah, but we're saying
William
now
Ruto
that those who
would
are
be
using the
Uhuru's
term,
project.
Those who are using the term are not picking out the rice and beans in the manner in which you are. They are not looking at it like that. And the negative connotation is what they're using to perpetuate a certain narrative.
And that's the connotation that would have been used if we had flipped the coin. Is he a project? Is he not? Yes, he's a project.
Can I go back just to the basic understanding of the word project?
Yeah.
Please.
Just so that, okay?
A political project, am I just any
No,
project?
politicians just attach to themselves to the meaning.
And then it just becomes
and the
political.
understanding, yes. But a project begins the concept, okay? And you're talking about objectives and deliverables, basically. And once you have a concept, then you have to have a design. How is this thing? What is it that we need? Okay,
Yes.
you're talking about steps to achieving the objectives.
Yes.
Then lastly, thank you very much. There's implementation.
Yes.
And there's monitoring and evaluation.
Yes, exactly. There's activity, there's rollout,
Yeah.
and there's timelines and so forth.
Yes.
And then there's that bit that you
Then there's a manager.
Yes. So all I'm saying is this. Political processes and this, what we as Kenyans, this imperial perspective that we brought into our politics, where people more or less nominate who they think or try to nominate who they think ought to have these positions in a democracy. But I'm saying the Kenyan way. The world over, it's done. Okay? So long as you are trying to follow the fundamentals of what a project is, what is perceived to be. Eric, I think one may have to see your point of view and say that anyone who has been selected as a preferred candidate and there's clear support, even if it wasn't state, one could argue that they're a project. Purely from an academic perspective.
Every contest is a project. Because it has all those things.
Yes.
You know?
My beef was the Kenyan interpretation and an implication.
And it has to be
the word.
contextualized.
You cannot run away from.
Yes.
And it has to be contextualized because this is Kenya. Because we have seen it before. We saw it in 2002. Uhuru Kenyatta told us about it in 2013. He came and said, you know what? That thing that you saw me doing the other night at Grand Regency, that was somebody trying to manipulate a project. He told us. Madimoni walifanya nini. He told us. In Kenyan context, we have seen it. Right? And just like we've said, so Mwai Kibaki did not come out openly to say, I mean, this is my preferred candidate. He played in the background on whether he had a preferred candidate or not. Okay? We did not see, that thing of overt use of state machinery to campaign for a candidate with the direct support of Mwai Kibaki. We saw it 10 years earlier with the direct support of Daniel Arap Moi. Are we seeing it now with the direct support of Uhuru Kenyatta? I say yes.
Again, my argument is in the Kenyan context, when you use the word project, the implication is that the project is helpless, and without the support of the state resources, their campaign would amount to nothing. Yes. And again, in a Kenyan context, it's unfortunate that the role the state, and then if we throw in this deep state discussion into it,
yes,
we have come to accept that if the deep state does not accept you,
then you're going nowhere.
Yes, unfortunately, it cannot be cast in stone, because we've seen a situation where deep state and everything at its disposal supported one Uhuru Kenyatta, and Uhuru did not win.
The only way to stop it is to have a very strong counter wind, like we saw in 2002. It was a very strong and powerful wind. And like we heard from somebody who has been in the deep state, who spoke on another media house, and this is the governor of Nyandarua, deep state actually does exist. And deep state actually does have preferred candidates. And deep state looks at, okay, in some areas where you have a candidate who is the preferred candidate and there's another opposition candidate and they're very close, then the deep state will add some...
it's called boost.
Some kind of boost to the wind, and the preferred candidate will cross the line.
Yes.
But he also implied by saying that when the race is too close, you assist the other one. If the race is clearly very far, like it happened in Kipeperi in a by-election in 19 what? Deep state will not win. Let's take a break, shall we? It's 29 minutes after 9. We want to hear what you think about this 0719-012-600. Is there a state project in this year's election? And I'm not asking whether Raila is a state project, because there are those who will argue that Ruto is the state project. Is there a state project in the forthcoming presidential election? Let's hear from you. 0719-012-600 after we take a look at weather and traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings.
They say a society gets the leadership it deserves. If you have a corrupt, crooked and rotten society like we have in Kenya, then of course they will get that kind of a leadership.
I think the president should dissolve parliament. That's the best solution at this moment in time. Dissolve parliament.
All of you go home.
Yes, we all go home.
How are we encouraging other people who might have new and creative ideas? Young people who are making money without any government help. They are just buying their own bundles. They are going on TikTok and making money. KRA is coming after them. I've been in parliament for 15 years. We have been unable to pass the gender law. And yet no presidential candidate is talking about it now. Because we are fake. The truth is, all the men refuse to vote for that law.
What did Sonko do to Pumwani maternity hospital?
Yeah, he
with
cleaned
his
it up.
own money.
Cleaned it with his own money. That was him as an individual.
Yeah. And I did not say he was cleaning his own money. I was saying he cleaned it.
Foot, mouth. Foot, mouth. Eric.
Okay.
The Situation Room.
It's cloudy in Nairobi.
Kenya's biggest conversation.
16. Mostly sunny conditions at 19 in Nakuru, highs of 27. 26 will be the high in a sunny Nyeri at 18 and mostly cloudy at 15 in Eldoret, highs of 24 and lows of 12. It's mostly cloudy in Mombasa this morning at 29, highs of 32 and lows of 25, while in Malindi, it's sunny at 28 with sea highs of 31. 22 and rainy in Kisumu, highs of 26 and lows of 18, while it's cloudy in Kakamega at 22. It'll go to highs of 27 and lows of 16. It's cloudy at 21 in Kampala, a bit of rain this morning. 26 will be the high and lows of 20, while Dar es Salaam continues to rain at 25, highs of 31 and lows of 24. Lagos, still hazy over the city at 25, highs of 33. 24 will be the high in a sunny Johannesburg, currently at 16, and we'll see lows of 14. Partly sunny conditions in Kinshasa at 25, highs of 33 and lows of 23. It's 4 degrees and sunny into early evening Monday in Beijing, highs of just that and lows of -6. And it's clear in Paris at 5. 11 will be the high and lows of 4. 4 degrees and clear in London, highs of 11 as well. Still maintaining that 0 temperature in New York. Coming into early Monday, we'll see highs of just 3 and lows of 0.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life.
All right, looking a little bit better in certain parts of the city, but we're still seeing heavy traffic industrial area. It's reducing in terms of length on Langata Road this morning, but in the CBD, quite hot and heavy. Huru Highway out through towards Westlands still continues to be a thing today and looking much better on the Thika Super Highway, but Kiambu Road is doing its thing. It's like magic. Here we are and then we're not. So there's still some traffic there. Limuru Road, inbound traffic is what we're looking at now, still quite heavy. And coming out of Westlands, doing its thing, it's still, Ring Road Westlands is still giving off heavy traffic vibe. We'll be out of traffic hour in a few minutes or so, but it looks like it still continues in some parts. Be safe while you traverse. Let us know through the morning what it looks like. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
012-600. Is there a state project in this year's general election?
You know, Eric, I'm going back to what I've been saying all along. I've been academic about it. I've been
philosophical almost.
Yes, but you see, for me, in the Kenyan context, the negative connotations of the project, that is what makes me say Raila Odinga is not a project.
Yeah, it far outweighs anything positive.
Yes.
Because if we want to, projects are good things, no?
Project is yes, but this one, given that this is the very same person who has actually stood against this so-called state sponsorship, deep state, and even deeper state. And by the way, Eric, just as a by the way, it wasn't an election; it was a by-election in 1995.
Yes.
And the gentleman, by the way, Githiomi Mwangi,
yes,
who actually won. It was the one-party state era on a DP ticket. In 1997, he was re-elected again, just for good measure, just so that people can understand.
To be sure.
Yeah. Yes, for certainty.
Yes.
And even now, as we talk about the situation in Kenya and Raila Odinga's campaigning for presidency, who is actually sponsoring him? Is it the deep state or is it the Mount Kenya Foundation? Who? Or are we saying the Mount Kenya Foundation is the deep state?
Or does it have good connections with the deep state?
Even I have connections with the deep state. Am I a project?
Well, if you're not supporting Raila Odinga, then you're not part of the deep state that's supporting Raila. That's the point. I mean,
you know, I make such a statement. No one knows who the deep state really is. So anybody can say and claim that they're close to the deep state. But the governor of Nyandarua was speaking. That man was an interior minister. Okay?
And head of public service.
Yes. When he speaks about deep states, I pause and I listen.
The fellow would tend to know what he was talking about.
He's most definitively knows what he's talking about. Yes. And he's not a man who talks all the time. You rarely hear him speak. So when he speaks, you listen.
We're talking about Governor Kimemia in this particular case. Former PS and Minister in Interior, Head of Public Service, Secretary to the Cabinet, said once that, you know, people talk about deep state. Yeah, the truth is, the deep state does exist. And when the powers that be have a preferred candidate, they will often try and assist that candidate, especially when they see that the candidate and the opponent are running neck and neck. So they'll just add a couple of inches to the preferred candidate's neck so that their head comes out taller. Longer. Yes. And so this actually does happen. Now, negative connotation, like you're saying, CT, of deep state in the country. And you're saying, that's why you're saying that Raila cannot be...
With the reference to Raila specifically, because of the uniqueness of this particular person.
So are we saying that Raila is not getting support from the state?
I am saying that I am not clear. They are claimed that he's getting support from the state. And I'm saying, getting support from the state, okay, there are those who have the evidence. But if the state is what it is supposed to be, all-powerful, and whom when they support you, nothing changes. How is it then we've had these disputed results? And the response that has been, this person always complains. Yes, but an equally valid explanation would be, what if indeed he actually did win? Is there evidence?
That shows you, as long he was not a state project. No. He may have won, he was not declared.
Now, my point is...
It's a bottom line, City. No. Thank you for getting there finally.
No, thank you for your clever interpretation of what I was trying to say. My point is, the deep state and what people claim it to be may not be what it actually is. It isn't all-powerful, all-pervading, and it isn't the powers without whom, without the support, you cannot actually achieve what you want. Yeah. That's really the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, but in this particular case, there's support. Zachary, good morning.
Good morning, people.
How are you, Zoe?
Let me say my weekend was good.
Very good.
this weekend I had to just, stay indoor and try to watch the world.
Mm-hmm.
I was declared the Zakari na Warebo.
Kabisa. Unasimama na kiti gani mheshimiwa?
Women's rep.
No, they are supporting me. They are saying, this guy throws some coins around and, this is good,
Mm.
So this is the point, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Let me say that Uhuru Kenyatta, now the person holding the presidency.
Yes.
Do you know that even after he retires on the 9th, the entertainment that he's going to be having, it's going to be funded by me and you.
Mm-hmm.
So Uhuru Kenyatta, as the president, is let me say, it's a property of the government of Kenya.
Yes.
And therefore, he should be very, very careful when he is, talking at I'm supporting Eric, I'm supporting who, because he himself is part of the government. He is part of the machinery that you are talking about.
Mm.
Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, Uhuru should not have mentioned publicly that I'm preparing this or that.
Mm.
If you are to follow the edict that the state machinery should not be used to support anybody, because Uhuru, even after 90, is going to remain part of the government of Kenya, and should there happen something that his experience is needed, the government of Kenya can dispose him to go on our behalf. Now, on the part of Mr. Ruto would not be part of the project, because he would be scored on the basis of what have you done when you are in government that is for the last 10 years. So he would not be seen actually in the true right of being a project of Uhuru or the government of Kenya. No, he would be told, okay, you and your president here, you are the deputy, and yet you did this, people become so much poor. So we discard you. And on analysis, on my analysis, yeah, I think Laida somehow is a respected guy. He's a statesman. We know what he has done over the years, yeah, to liberate this country or to give us the freedom that we have. But I think that he spoiled his takes.
So we just get to the point, Zachary. Is there a project or is there no project?
Okay.
Okay. The struggle begins.
Yes or no?
By the happenings, my judgment would be that Raila accepting to be the project of Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta or the Kenya government and the so-called deep state, actually he has spoiled his stake.
So Raila is a project.
The next president. Mr. Ruto is riding on a sympathy wave.
Zachary, sawa, you have answered. Thank you. John, good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Very well.
Good morning, John.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember into the last time, was it 2013 when Kibaki was leaving?
Yes.
Did we have this discussion of a state project? I don't remember if we had.
Kibaki.
For a bit, yes.
I don't think if we had this discussion.
For a bit, yes, there was. If you may recall,
but
at that
not
point,
to this level.
Not to this level. If you may recall, at that point when there was that whole signing of agreement between Uhuru and Musalia one evening and then reneging on that agreement, the conversation of whether there is a state project or not emerged.
Yes. But it was not to this level.
Yes.
Now that's where we have to ask yourself, how come, even that time, after Uhuru now was the Jubilee candidate,
yes,
the opposition were not talking that we are going against a state project. So we need to ask ourselves, how come this time we are having that conversation? There must be something which changed. And remember, we are in the same situation. We have a president who is not
retiring,
contesting. Yes, a president who is retiring, which was the same situation in 2013. So if you can answer that, then you can be able to answer the question that we are asking, if there is a state project or not. What is different
Okay.
there and
Yes,
now?
So, John, are you saying yes, no, or maybe, or I don't know?
No, it's obvious. As they say, when it sounds and moves and dash like a what is a what?
Just
I
like
think
that.
that's where
So,
we are.
in your opinion, what is this particular what?
It is a project.
Thank you, John. Robert in Nandi, good morning.
Good morning, too.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you people?
We are fine, thanks.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting topic. State projects. 2013, these guys go on a campaign trail and they are saying, Yangu kumi, yako kumi. Then nobody is saying, kuna state project ya miaka kumi ijaye. And then suddenly, when the tables turn, it's like, now the guy who is preferred is the one who is state project. But me who was preferred then was not a state project. And why all this? And then next, by presidency, I think state projects emanate from guys who are already in government. Look at Uhuru Kenyatta then being proposed by President Moi.
Yep.
He was in government.
Yep.
So a project within government is a state project.
Okay.
But here is a case, Raila Odinga has never been in government.
Right.
So how do you describe that as a state project when the guy is not in government?
Right. How convenient, right?
Yeah, moreover, I mean...
So Raila is not in government?
He has never been in government, a minister.
Officially.
He was not serving in government.
Officially,
yeah, so,
senior.
Yes.
Is Raila in government by influence?
My God, where is that? Where is that applicable in the world that by influence you can be in government? You either occupy an office, have a title, have the security. In fact, yesterday these guys were in Sereme, my hometown. Yeah, there's a lead car, a police car. There are around 4 lorries of police. The vehicles there are being ridden by government officers.
Whose convoy is this? Raila's?
No, that is William Ruto's convoy.
How different is Raila's convoy?
Of course, all of them are, I think they are being provided for security by the government because these are influential persons.
Okay.
I even know of a retired minister who has a bodyguard from government. So, yeah, to me is, at the end of the day, I think this is just people who are trying to look for some conflict to ride on to be able to get the votes.
Okay.
But then having a guy who's been detained for 9 years, calling him a state project, sometimes the Kenya sijui ni nini.
So you say no?
Other than no state project. These are just excuses by guys who are bitter.
Umekataa.
Kuna kitu kama hiyo nani.
Sawa. Thank you, Robert. 0719012600. Is there a state project in this election?
There is a state project.
Okay.
The expressway.
The expressway?
It's a state project.
It's a state project.
If the state doesn't support it, it'll come to an abrupt end.
Right.
Yes. The other projects as well. There's some which have been completed.
Yes.
The others which are nearing completion.
Yes.
The others which have been abandoned. Or at least we don't
So,
see
for example, this one, the expressway, there's a start date and an end date.
That end date keeps moving, but at least
There
there's
is
a
something,
hope that at
right?
some point it will end even without a date. Yes.
And then there are resources dedicated to it.
By the state.
And there's regular inspection of this project.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And bringing in the stakeholders. You come here, Kenha, tell us, well, how far are you going? I will drive on this road myself. Right? And then looking at Major Lieutenant General Badi, that you want to cut a tree. No, don't touch that tree. Leave the tree. Why don't you also make Uhuru Park in the same pace so that this thing looks very good?
Uhuru Park is one of those tall projects.
Yes. So the project has this kind of direct interventions here and there
from
constantly from the state.
Yes.
And money dedicated to it.
Yes.
And attention and focus.
And without the support of the state,
that thing
is dead.
Is a flop.
And that's what I'm trying to tell you. The trailer doesn't fall in that category. He's a man who has, as I said, withstood elections when he is actually supposedly fighting against the very thing that we're saying, or we refer to as state projects.
Yes.
A preferred candidate. And he has shown the ability to be able to actually mount a campaign in that manner.
That with or without this association or said, support that he's receiving, with or without it, that he would then be able to stand on his own.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
That he would be able to...
Add stilts and is taller than everybody else. Anthony, good morning.
Yes, good morning, my friend. How are you?
Very well.
Okay, this is Anthony from Mombasa, MCA aspirant, Ziwalangombe, Mkanu ticket.
Whose project are you?
Well, I'm People's Project, because I've even been tagged a project of someone. But I just wonder, when I was struggling to be where I am, many people were just looking at me along the road as someone who does not have a future. But now when I've decided to run for MCA, people are tagging me a project. I'm looking for someone who can sponsor me so that I may call myself public, that I am someone's project. But for now, I am People's Project.
Okay.
Let's go back to the issue. Raila is the People's Project. And if at all Uhuru in his capacity has seen that Raila is the only person who has the interest of people at heart, then he has got no option just to support the People's Project. Remember, Raila has not stayed in government for more than 10 or 15 years. So how comes he can influence the existing government to support him? Does it mean that when someone is supporting your political aspiration, he just all of a sudden becomes a project of a certain entity? I want to tell the people of this great nation that they should evacuate Raila from, I don't know whether this term project has got a lot of negative connotation. I don't know why many people are putting it as always negative, with negative perception.
Is there something positive
about
it?
You people, you need to come out clear and tell us, being a project, does it have any positivity or it is just negative?
What do you think, Anthony?
To me, it is not clear. It is not coming out clear whether it is positive or negative. But as I am standing here telling you about this term project, I believe a project needs to be well cremated to be a positive side. Raila has been so consistent in performing his duty as a man who has championed in every podium. I'm seeing Raila as a positive person. So if at all he's going to be tagged a project, then he's a People's Project.
Okay, thank you very much,
Uhuru
Anthony.
has got no option to support the People's Project because he is the unity, or he's the head of the state and a symbol of national unity.
So thank you, Anthony. Let's hear from Said in Mombasa. Good morning.
Hello, morning. Habari zenu?
Hatujambo.
Okay. Kuna mmoja katika nyinyi waendeshaji kipindi upenda kutoa methali.
Ni mimi naitwa Muga, City Muga.
Oh, thank you, mzee Muga, asante sana. Kuna neno la Kiswahili linasema akufae kwa dhiki ndio rafiki. His Excellency the President amesema second term yake Raila amemsaidia sana. Kwanza amemsaidia kama mzee, mtu mzima, kumshauri katika mambo mengi. Kwa hivyo, ikiwa mtu alikusaidia wakati wa dhiki, kuna makosa gani ukiregesha mkono? Kibinadamu. Na ukiangalia, ikiwa leo Raila anaambiwa ni state project, huyu deputy president alikuwa wapi yeye asiendeleze kazi ya mwenzake baada ya Uhuru akienda nyumbani? Kwa hivyo, ikiwa Raila ni state project, angalia Raila akisimama katika mikutano, nyuma yake ako na sura ya taifa. Angalia Ruto na hao kina Mudavadi ambao walikuwa wakituambia huyu jamaa ndo ameharibu uchumi. Na ndio leo unarejea kwenda kusimama na yeye. Hakuna vile mtu atakujengea kwa boma lako akuibie, halafu useme huyo ndio mtu ataka awe vile age katika huyo mtaa. Sijui kama tuelewana mzee Muge.
Baba nakuelewa sana, asante.
Kwa hivyo Raila ana sura ya kitaifa. Kama ni project basi ni project wa taifa. Kwa kila region Raila anapokwenda unakuta wazee wanamkaribisha, wakina mama wanamkaribisha, vijana wanamkaribisha. Kwa hivyo awe ni state project, asiwe ni state project, wa Kenya wanajua yale mambo Raila amefanyia hili taifa. And above all, nikimaliza, rais ametuambia huyu bwana amenisaidia, kwa hivyo akufae kwa dhiki Mr. Muga.
Ndio rafiki, sio
project.
Ndio kamano.
Said, thank you very much.
You know, Eric, one of the things that I think people forget, when we get into the complexity of politics, complexities rather, we forget the simple things. And a handshake is a form of agreement, an understanding. And very rarely is an understanding anything other than an understanding between equals. You don't shake hands with a child, for instance, and then say, we have made an agreement with this child, and this is a child who has parents, and we're going to continue having made an agreement with this child. It's among equals. So when the subject then moves to that, the issue of someone being someone else's project becomes moot, does it not? Where they're equals, who's going to be whose project? And you're equals.
So you're saying that based on the fact that they're equals, then it would be difficult for you to see as someone then as subservient to the other.
How do
because
you
then
be,
you would only do what they say,
yes,
and you would only then operate within the controls of this other person.
Those are the connotations that the word project carries with it in a political setup in this country. And that's what I'm saying. That is what doesn't work in this particular situation. And
in this particular case, City, who are equals?
Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta are equals. They're political equals.
In what?
As people who head parties and people who have a say and a following within the country, they're equals.
Does one have access to state resources and the other doesn't?
One has all the access to state resources because they're the president.
And the other one doesn't.
That's why I started off by saying political.
So they're political equals.
Yes.
But when it comes to resources, one has access to more than the other.
One has not more, infinitely more.
Okay. And so one can influence the state
in
support of the other.
One certainly can.
So then that one who has that then gets a little bit more power in this equation.
Actually, no. That's why I said politically it doesn't work that way, because remember my early argument when I said somebody who has actually mounted an election against the person with all those state resources and has given a good account of themselves, that's where this term of equality and the discussion around it comes into being in my mind.
Okay.
Yes. But everything you say about the person who holds the helm, yes, they have those state resources at their disposal. Are they powerful? They most certainly are.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Picking apart the layers and just looking at it and, what different sides, different factions are then going to be able to say or not say. That I think the negative connotations, unfortunately, will take center stage here. And when you're looking at a project and saying that, of course, there are definitely positive things that could happen. There's nothing wrong with it. Unfortunately, what is coming to play out here is the negative connotations that come along with it. And that's when now you have to now pick apart and say, all right, is this something that then can be shelved? And then also looking at the flip side, that if the same individuals, whereas somebody else was in this position, having received support from an outgoing government, that same word, with all its negative connotations, would most definitely not be used. Would not be used.
This country is
and that's why I said that from where I sit,
yes,
anybody having a preferred candidate, a preferred successor is okay, right? Where I draw the line is where state resources are used directly to support.
And I ask the question, is it state resources or is it Mount Kenya Foundation resources?
Mount Kenya Foundation has no resources. Which ones?
I wouldn't know. But when I see all those rich people, I'm sure you're rich because you have resources.
If the rich people will have a dinner at one point and they'll pay $1 million shillings for that, that is something different.
Oh, no.
State resources is about the machinery. Is about, for example, having a law amended with something in mind. Is about pushing through a bill through Parliament with something in mind. Is about
and are you saying
exerting
now those
influence
resources are being
on
used
management,
to support one Raila Odinga?
on management of. That's where the questions come. Is there a state resource or is there not state resource? When you see all these things happening and you ask yourself, so what is the end game here? Is it public good or is it the good of
Eric, if we take
our project?
Your argument is a valid one. If we take it back into our history just a little bit, when our Chapter 6 was being bastardized and there was no project in mind, what were we seeing then? The state doing what it does or what it prefers to do to serve its own ends, to serve a country? You see, there are things that happen in our country with the connivance of our parliament, which at some point certainly serves a certain interest.
Yep.
But with the timing of election around the corner, the leaning then in that acquires is lends credence to what you're saying. And if you're talking about resources, something interesting also about our politics is that when I look at the campaigns that the Deputy President has mounted, and we take the view that he's not being supported by the state, it's admirable because it's a concerted effort, it's continuous, and it can't be done without resources.
No. There we'll say definitely. He is taking advantage of the privileged position he has in state. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind the Deputy President is taking advantage of the position that he has. Yes. When you host people at in State House, in Karen, the chicken and the tea and the sugar cane you serve there is my taxes. Yes. And it's a political meeting.
And anyway, when you go out on the campaigns?
You're using my vehicle to campaign.
And as we've been told by this gentleman who comes from Zarem,
do the proverb. Do the proverb.
Anayejitia lisilomhusu upata lisilomridhi.
Okay. See you again tomorrow morning, folks. It's now 10 a.m.